Testing. Testing, 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 testing. Testing.
That was free. That was free.
Yes. You guys ready? We ready? Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get started. Will you please call to order the regular city commission meeting of March 4th, 2025? Will you please have roll call?
Commissioner Hudak,
Here.
Commissioner Parnas, Commissioner Preston,
Here.
Vice Mayor Drosky,
Here.
Mayor Gans.
Here, if we could please stand for a moment of silence and our pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have approval of the city commission meeting minutes for the regular city commission meeting of February 18th, 2025.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Parnas, seconded by Commissioner Preston. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Acknowledgement of our city board meeting minutes, our non-uniformed employees retirement fund meeting minutes of November 4th, 2024, code compliance meeting minutes of November 22nd, 2024, community redevelopment agency meeting minutes of December 10th, 2024, Hillsborough Inlet District meeting minutes of January 13th, 2025, and community appearance board meeting minutes of January 22nd, 2025.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Parnas, second by Commissioner Hudak. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Approval of our agenda tonight for March 4th, 2025.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Preston, second by Commissioner Parnas. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Madam Clerk?
For those attending via Zoom online wishing to speak under public comment or on an item that's open for public input, please click raise hand at the bottom under the reactions tab, and your audio will be unmuted when you're recognized by Mayor Gans. For those attending via Zoom by telephone, please press *9 to raise your hand, and your audio will be unmuted when you're recognized by Mayor Gans. Please make sure your audio is unmuted on your end by pressing *6. Thank you.
Thank you. Captain Hofsty, would you like to do the honors of the first item?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, distinguished commissioners, Mr. City Manager, and citizens of Deerfield Beach. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce the following staff. If you please join me up front from our executive wing. I have our Undersheriff, Colonel Nicole Anderson, joining us with Major D. Giovanni, who is our new North Region Major, and also joining us, don't be shy, Captain Jamie Smith, the Colonel's Executive Officer.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the dais, city staff, residents, and everyone in their respective position. Good evening. I'm here before you. I bring greetings from Sheriff Dr. Gregory Toney and the men and women of the Broward County Sheriff's Office to present to you your new regional major, which is Major Christopher D. Giovanni. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. He's a tenured law enforcement professional with a wealth of training and knowledge at the executive level. He hails to us from the city of Cooper City, where he was the captain for a number of years. His work speaks for itself. I know they hated to see him leave, but when you have good people, you don't second guess yourself when it's time for those promotions. And as the sheriff likes to say, he was his first round draft pick. So I'm gonna, without further ado, I'm gonna introduce Major D. Giovanni and let him tell you about himself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Under Sheriff. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioner, City Manager, residents that are with us. I just want to tell you, it's such an honor to be here standing before you, to have an opportunity to come to the North End to serve, to come alongside your District Chief, Adam Hofstein, and to help him ensure that the relationship with BSO is leveraged to ensure that the partnership that exists in this city is furthered, so the public safety mission in this city continues to move forward in a positive manner. Just a little note about me professionally. I have over 2 decades of law enforcement experience serving here in Broward County. And aside from that, I served 6.5 years in the United States Marine Corps, having served in both Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom overseas. I bring a lot of that expertise and knowledge with me to this capacity to ensure that we are leveraging the best technology and innovating new ways to keep our community safe. I want you to know that I believe that there is a way for us strategically to parallel path with this community with your own strategic plan. I'm excited to be here, honestly, in 2025, because this is a momentous occasion and year for you. I know you have your centennial celebration coming forward on June 11th, 2025. And so I'm excited that I can actually participate in that experience with you. And also know that there is a parallel path with your own strategic plan that's currently in existence to ensure that we are leveraging not only our core values that come alongside yours, but also furthering the areas of technology and innovation that you feel is needed to ensure the quality of life in this community. So whatever I can do to assist your District Chief, Adam Hofstein, in ensuring that you get the very best out of the relationship with the Broward Sheriff's Office, that's what I'm here to avail myself to you for. Thank you for the opportunity to serve you and your residents.
Welcome aboard. Thank you. Our second item is announcing something that's been long overdue. In 2009, former Mayor Peggy Nolan was selected to serve Deerfield Beach as our mayor. Prior to this role, Mayor Nolan dedicated 12 years as commissioner for District 1 in Deerfield Beach, including 3 years as the vice mayor. She served as commissioner from 1993 to 2005 before becoming mayor in 2009 until 2013. As a commissioner, Mayor Nolan worked tirelessly on impactful projects that greatly benefited the citizens of Deerfield Beach. One notable achievement was the establishment of the Deerfield Beach Aquatics Complex. Recognizing the need for a local facility where children can learn to swim, Mayor Nolan partnered with Swim Central and the city's executive staff to secure funding and drive the project forward. Her determination stemmed from a personal challenge, having to take her own children to another city for swim lessons. On February 19th, 2025, the Broward County School Board unanimously approved the renaming of the Deerfield Beach Aquatics Complex to the Peggy Nolan Aquatics Complex, as the complex is a testament to her dedication, serving thousands of children throughout the years. Through Swim Central's programs, these young swimmers have not only gained an essential life skill, but they've had countless lives potentially saved thanks to the Learn to Swim program. Mayor Nolan's legacy continues to make a profound impact in the community she served so passionately. Simply put, if it were not for Peggy Nolan, we would not have an aquatic center in the city of Deerfield Beach. Nolan, thank you.
Oh, she's gonna cry. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna be short and sweet, but I have my hanky just in case I cry. First, I'd like that there's some people here tonight. Of course, my family and all these children are my grandchildren, but there's a dear friend, Brenda Dismuke, who's here tonight, and her daughter swam on the swim teams over at Deerfield Beach Elementary or Middle School. And she also, as she grew up, took lifeguard training, and she was working there in the summer times and when she was going to college, which this didn't only bring to the community the children that swam on the competitive teams or the recreational teams. It got them into jobs that helped them with their lives and their, during college and working, this was their jobs. Also, Joanne Brighton is here, and she also competed on the swim teams at the city, and she worked at the pool for many years. So it wasn't just that they swam there, they also had careers there for a while. And Justin Salerno's in China, and he can't be here tonight, but his mother's here. And he also did this. He also swam on the swim team and then worked at the pool, and he eventually went into the lifeguards on the beach. So this pool wasn't just to teach kids to swim. It was to give kids in our community the opportunity for jobs. When they went, when they were in high school and they were looking for summer jobs, it gave them that opportunity. So that was one of the extra bonuses. There's a lot of people I need to thank. I guess I have to really start with Debbie Watsman Schultz, because she put me on the Swim Central Board, and then that's when I found out there was money for pools. I'll keep it short, but I also like to definitely thank the school board, and especially Nora Rupert, because she helped push this forward. The city advisory group made up of local residents, and of course, the current commission, Mike, Ben, Vice Mayor Todd, Bernie, Mayor Gantz, along with the city manager, Rodney Brimlow. The pool is one of the reasons that I ran for office in the first place. And I can't believe I'm here, standing here tonight. 103 children drowned in 2024. They don't have the statistics yet of how many children have drowned already this year. 500 children a year go through the swim program for free. The elementary schools sign up kindergartner through first grade, and they are bused or they walk to Deerfield Swimming Pool. And this is wonderful. But I also found out that, and they're free lessons. They are free lessons. I also learned that 3 to 4% time, or 3 to 4 more people over the age of 65 drowned in pools. And they have adult swim lessons at our pool. So please take advantage of it. It's so important. And they also have lifeguard classes. So any kids in the community that need jobs for the summer, or need jobs on weekends, or vacations, you have the opportunity to go over there and take the lifeguard classes, and you could get a job with the city too. So I thank you. I cannot tell you how much this means to me, because it just means a lot to me, because it touched a lot more people in this community and children than I could have ever imagined in my life. So thank you all
Thank
for
you.
honoring me.
Bill. Commissioner Preston?
Congratulations, Peggy, to the entire Nolan family. I don't think a lot of people know this, but on average, about 7 kids die every year in Broward County from drowning. Every year, we lose people. And those of us who live, in Florida, we know how challenging the summers can be, which means kids take chances. And a lot of the kids that take chances don't know how to swim. The true recognition and the true challenge of a politician is to recognize a wrong, something that needs to be done, and not leaving it like they found it. And that was a passion for Peggy, to be able to challenge this. And now with swim lessons, simply put, children are going to be saved. Lives are going to be saved as a result of this. It would have been a tragedy to leave it like it was and do nothing about it and just tolerate the challenges of just losing people. So I'm so proud of your passion to take this on and to do what you needed to do. And now it's not about having a person's name on something. Really, it isn't. It's about whatever they champion, does it make a difference for the community? And what you did made a difference for this community, and we profoundly thank you.
Our next item is a certificate of appreciation. for the American Red Cross. The City of Deerfield Beach would like to thank you for your unwavering dedication and humanitarian efforts, providing life-saving assistance, disaster relief, and community support. Your commitment to alleviating suffering and fostering hope has profoundly impacted countless lives. I cannot tell you how many times that the American Red Cross has stepped in to help our residents. On behalf of all of our residents, the mayor, the city commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, do hereby extend our deepest gratitude for your service and compassion with this certificate of appreciation. Do we have anyone here from the American Red Cross? We'll save this for them. Thank you so much. This next proclamation is recognizing the month of March as Procurement Month. Procurement is a critical function that drives our city's operations, supports community growth. Ms. Peggy Gadua, as the new purchasing manager and chief procurement officer, has implemented innovative strategies that have greatly improved our procurement processes with procurement and contract administration. The revitalization of the procurement division directly benefits our community by ensuring that resources are used effectively. One of the notable achievements has been a marked increase in bid responses. This improvement indicates a growing interest from vendors and reflects confidence in our procurement processes. As a community benefit, this supports local businesses and promotes economic development. Now, therefore, I, Bill Gans, Mayor of the City of Deerfield Beach, in recognition thereof, do hereby proclaim the month of March as Procurement Month. Peggy? Is she here tonight? City Attorney?
Thank you, Mayor. We are now at the public comment portion of tonight's meeting. A person is addressing the commission shall state his or her name and address and may speak for 3 minutes unless extended for 1 additional minute by the mayor. This is the time for public comment on items that are not on tonight's agenda. The time for public comment on an item that is on tonight's agenda is after the title of that item is read into the record, and the public comment period for that item is opened up. No comment shall be made related to the personal life or personal qualities of any person, and no language which would offend persons of ordinary sensibility shall be permitted.
Thank you. Is there anyone online? Okay, who's online? Bijan, go right ahead. We'll let you go first. Bijan Anderson.
Good evening. Bjorn Anderson, 1551 Southeast 12th Street. The District 4 Commissioner recently said on the Adams Brothers podcast that he would debate Dan Hers and any day of the week and twice on Sundays. Maybe tonight would be the night he actually answers some of the following questions. I have 5 of them. 1, you said removing Sandra Jackson from the African American Heritage Board was not done for political reasons. Then you claimed she was removed because of an incident that at the Juneteenth festival. Since that occurred 18 months before you removed her, do you always wait 18 months before you admonish and remove somebody from the African American Heritage Board, or do you usually do it sooner? And if it's usually sooner, why did you wait 18 months in this particular case? 2, why did you not participate in either budget workshops and not ask a single question when all 4 of your colleagues chose to participate and ask intelligent questions? 3, many people are still upset about the city spending $1,300 for each new garbage can on the beach. Why did you say repeatedly in the May 23rd Commission meeting that you didn't want to ever hear about the $1,300 garbage cans ever again? Probably because they were $1,300. At 4, why did you say at the May 23rd Commission meeting, we don't offer 15-year contracts to anybody in this city? And then turn around only 3 months later and award a 30-year lease to Danielle Rossi to put in a restaurant where the Deerfield Beach Cafe now stands. And number 5, Why did you tell the city manager to reduce the operating millage property tax rate? And after he refused to do it, why did you attempt to increase his pay 10% that year and call him the Tom Brady of city managers? It's either hot or cold. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Freitag?
Katie Freitag, 418 Southeast Second Street, Deerfield Beach. I want to commend the DIAs and the school board for renaming the aquatic center to the Peggy Nolan Aquatic Center. It's going to be a fabulous, it's a fabulous way to honor such an incredible woman. What I love most about former Mayor Peggy is that she had an agenda when she came on to the DIAs. She knew what she wanted the city to have, what she wanted the city to experience. I feel that this is something that is currently missing on the current DIAs. If we're allowing developers to come in and drive the train, so to speak, on how our central campus, how our downtown area, how all of these areas are going to look and be built up and be designed, I feel that our DIAs is the one that needs to have the vision to take that to the developers. Our city needs to develop the vision and where we want our city to go. And that is what we give to the developers to work with, not the other way around. And I hope the new commissioners and mayor will all be able to come up with that kind of vision to see where they want our city to be in 5, 10, 15 years down the line. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shinesky?
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Daniel Shinetsky. I'm in District 3, 34 Keswick B, Deerfield Beach. I just want to go on record. This is one of the last city commission meetings of the full Deerfield Beach commissioners, the team. I just want to go on record and give a heartfelt, sincere thank you to the mayor and the city commissioners. I really think you guys have done an excellent job during the last term. It takes a lot to get up on the dais and accomplish what you gentlemen have accomplished, especially with different political philosophies, backgrounds, and personalities. You came together as a team to help the city of Deerfield Beach and its citizens, and I feel that's very, very commendable. You've accomplished things like the Braithwaite Center for Active Aging, the construction of the Bezo Montessori Children's Center. You made legislation that made the first Juneteenth holiday in Florida, the construction of the Johnny Tigner Center, the groundbreaking of the Sawgrass to Seagrass Center, the fixing of the stormwater streets to make Deerfield Beach safe during storms, and especially to earn a AA bond rating that shows that the city is in excellent financial stead. It's so easy for people to throw negative remarks when they get up on the podium, especially when they have not accomplished anything to benefit the city of Deerfield Beach or its citizens. It's just like a lot of hot air that evaporates with nothing to show that they were even there. So again, I want to give a sincere thank you to the commissioners and the mayor for your term of office as a citizen of Deerfield Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shinesky.
Good evening. My name is Philip Bradley, and my address is 4330 Northwest 12th Avenue. My comment is about the Deerfield Beach Aquatic Center. I just want to point something out that probably even Ms. Nolan doesn't even know about, but I was a Special Olympics swimming coach at the Boca Raton YMCA for 20 years. And we would have 3 swimming meets a year. And the last one would be the state games. And the state games took place in a 50-meter pool. And all my swimmers always practiced in 25-meter or 25-yard pools. So I wanted them to practice in a 50-meter pool. So I came to the Deerfield Beach Aquatic Center. Even though we were the Boca Raton YMCA, they allowed us to practice in that pool and get used to the extra long. It's quite a bit of a difference to swim 50 meters than it is to swim 25 meters. And sometimes it was awful results, but by practicing in that pool, we were able to compete well. And I also, so that the pool reached more than just the people of Deerfield Beach. It went all the way into Boca, and that was really a good thing. And I'll remind you that it actually had the Florida State games at that pool. I don't know what year it was, but I was there, and it was and there was a world record set by, I believe, it was a butterfly on that day. So, that's my spiel. I just want to thank Peggy for getting that done because it made a difference for my team. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Else? Oh, Mr. Nolan?
How you doing? Thomas Nolan, 406 Southeast 8th Ave. On behalf of Local 4321, Broward County Professional Firefighters, I have President Bertuccio here. We would like to donate a check to the Packard Rattlers. We watched the first meeting and we noticed we want to thank the commission for bringing back that program. I played Pee Wee football in the city of Deerfield Beach. I know there wasn't a team and now we're bringing it back. So Mr. Mayor, commissioners, city manager, I think it's one of those things that we forget about the kids, and the kids are our future. And if we don't worry about the kids, who's going to take care of us one day? So I think it's an honor for us to donate $1,000 from our union to their charity. So I'd like to present this to them.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, first of all, just want to say thank you to the firemen as we graciously accept this check, and we will use it to the best of our ability. But we are still trying to recapture the parents in this community. We have parents that migrate as far as Delray and as far south as Pembroke Pines. So if we don't, no parents, no children, no organization. And we want to thank you for everything that you've done. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just want to say hello and thank you to everybody on the board here, the commissioners, the mayors. I represent Gateway Community Outreach.
I'm sorry, I just need your name and address
Oh,
for the record.
gotcha.
Thank you.
First time, thank you. Keith Kilpatrick, 291 Southeast First Terrace, right here in Deerfield. We just want to say thank you. We've been in Deerfield close to 30 years. Commissioner Preston, you know my stepfather, Jim Rice, so he says hi. And we want to thank you for all the years of all the grants that you've given us. We use the money to feed the people that are in desperate need. We're still doing the homeless prevention. We're still doing the rents and mortgages, light bills and water bills. And I just came here to say thank you. We really appreciate all that you've done. We look forward to a longer, more meaningful relationship in the future. And also to Meg Nolan for what a great center she had also. We do have kids that go there. And that's basically it. Have an amazing night. And we appreciate all that you do.
Thank you.
Ava Swenson, 810 Southeast 7th Street. First of all, I want to thank you all for a wonderful 2 years that you've been here. You've done a great job. Deerfield is a great town, and we can see by all the people that have been coming up here and saying wonderful things. The Adams brothers who are taking care of Packard Rattlers, everybody in Peggy Nolan. What can you say? Plenty on Facebook. Facebook is not knowledge. Facebook is trash. And I'm here to say after 46, 47 years, there's not 100% of the things that I like right that any commission, including yours, has done. But I believe in my heart that you all have Deerfield first, not yourselves, but Deerfield. And I want to thank you all again for doing what you can. Dan took a lot of my stuff. He had a whole list of things. I think he was at my house and pulled it right out. So thanks, Dan. But thank you for everything that you guys have done for Deerfield from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dean Cowan, 3250 Southwest Second Court. First of all, Mayor, Bill, thank you for all you've done all the years. I've known you a very long time.
Very
since
long
I've been
time.
around this town for a long time. But thank you for your heart in serving our community. It's much appreciated. And with that in mind, as we move to a new bench, a new setup here, let this be just a reminder that the city actually works for us residents. And too often it gets misconstrued where the city takes over and think that we actually bow down to them. I've seen that happen many times out in Deer Run. We don't get answers, we don't get callbacks, we get pushed to voicemail. Basically, we get turned away. It needs to change. As much change as you've helped make in the years you've been here, Todd, I've known you for many years as well. The changes you've made, the other two, I've spoken to both of you personally. And I appreciate what you're doing, but the city departments are not following through with your directives. That needs to change moving forward. You guys worked hard to make changes, and it needs to be progressed even further. We need to make sure that we have access to the people that we need to talk to in a timely fashion. If there are major concerns, it should not be pushed off for things such as events like the fair was. When I tried to get a phone call, sorry, he's busy. I did not know that the only one that can make an appointment is the person that you can't get a hold of to make an appointment. These are the things that need to start to change. As we in Deer Run, we don't have an HOA, but we do have people that really want to make a difference in our community. I personally lived there since 1993. I moved here in 1990. But I'm seeing that we are now going backwards in the spirit of what the city, the employees are actually doing for us. It seems like it's their way, shut up and just listen. And that really needs to change. So as much as I say thank you for all the years that you have served us as well, all of you have put your hearts into it and it's greatly appreciated. Hopefully the city employees, a lot of them need to take it up because I see a lot more waste happening because of it. That needs to change. When you get departments that are not answering phones and you got two people sitting at a desk refusing to answer the phone, why are they here? You see, these are some of the things that need to be addressed. These are the changes that you guys got to look forward to because I'm going to keep speaking up about it. And this time it's, you know, it just has to be done. We need to make a change. We need to make sure that we are heard and not just like passed off. I shouldn't have to come to a meeting to find out whether I can speak to someone or not. I've waited 3 weeks for a phone call back and I have not yet got it. But I'll meet with them after the meeting. You see, these are the things that we shouldn't have to do as residents here. Hardworking, tax-paying people that are paying people as employees, and we're not getting the consideration of who we actually are, the taxpayers of this city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. I'm gonna go to Ms. Ross and we'll get a representative.
My name is Peggy Ross, 103 19th Avenue, Deerfield Beach. I just want to thank everybody for all of the hard work they've done, for making this the wonderful city that I really love and feel at home at. And I'm glad to see this is for many people, for the ones who would be leaving, that this seems to be a positive meeting. Most of the ones don't always go that way. So so thank you again, Mr. Gans. I know this is your final.
Final long meeting, yes.
And just said thank you and for the other. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hines, and we'll get a Representative Reed.
My name is Joe Hines. I'm at 559 Northwest 47th Terrace. Been a lot of nice things said tonight, so maybe we'll get over it after I get through talking here. I don't know. My little talk's about budget shuffle and the Stevens brothers. A recent statement by the District 4 Vice Mayor and mayoral candidate has talked about corruption, and it got me to looking at something I could look at, and that was the city budget. There's a $349 million budget in 2024, and it's riddled with errors. The budget on budget page 53, and it's entitled Summary of All Funds. Listed among those revenues are two items which total $94 million. They are in plain English, nothing but slush funds. The city calls them the interfund transfers in and use of fund balances. When adding up the 60 line items of the operating expenses, there is a $6 million difference, less than what the city's totals. That's adding up all 60 items. When adding up the new revenue totals, they totaled about $210 million. Now, this is the $349 million budget, but only $210 million is new money. The city, the operating costs are $137 million. When you take that with the 210, the operating expenses of the city are 65%. That's anywhere from 10 to 15% over the national average. If it was, which is 50 to 60%. If you figured at 50%, there's a $31 million overage, $32 million overage. If you figured at 60%, it's $11 million overage. Any way you figure it, it's a bunch of money. Since 2023, the city has received nearly $23 million from the American Recovery Act, or the COVID stimulus. Has anybody heard about that outside the city? I didn't until I discovered it. This year, the city has taken some of that COVID money, what's left over, and they put it in, hidden it in the utilities fund and the stormwater fund. When you look at budget pages, can I have one more?
Another minute? Sure.
Thank you. When you look at budget page 127 under grant funds, it states that 5.7 million of this fund, COVID fund, still exists, and they're transferring it to the two funds, but when they only transferred 5.1 million, so there's $550,000 missing. Did the money simply vanish or thin air, or did it just get lost in the budget shuffle? It seems to me it looks like the Feasance brothers have taken over our city. You might know them as misfeasance, malfeasance, or non-feasance. The District 4 candidate gave a handout claiming a 10% property tax promised by candidate Dan Hertz would hurt the fire and police department. With $93 million hidden in the budget, I don't think that's a fact at all. Nothing could be farther from the truth. And Mr. Hertz is fully supportive of the fire department and the police department. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Representative? Representative Reed?
Good evening. Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and city staff. I just wanted to say thank you for naming the pool, the Aquatic Center, after Mayor Nolan. As a commissioner, she started that project and I was on the dais with her. So I know how hard she worked with then Mr. Vince Kendrick to get this pool started in Deerfield and built there. I just want to thank the commission for having the foresight to name the pool after her. And I want to say to those of you who are going off of the dais, thank you for your service. I know we have not always agreed on items that are happening or things that are happening in the city, but that's what it's all about. It's the back and forth, and it's knowing that you did have the city's heart and within your heart. And I just have one question about the Tigner Center. When are we going to get the public address system installed in that ballroom? And when a person rents the ballroom, do they pay less because the public address system is not there? Those are two questions I'd like to have answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else online? Oh, yes, ma'am. Commissioner?
Good evening, Gloria Battle, 1240 Southwest 6th Way, Deerfield Beach, Florida. let me start off by saying thank you, Peggy, for all that you've done. And it was not a slide. Okay. So, but, and I do want to thank you all. I know for those of us who sit out here, it's often challenging for us, but you do a good job. I've sat where you are, and for those people who like to complain, you don't know the story. We need to keep all that stuff to ourselves one way or the other. I want to thank Mayor Gantz for being there when I needed him. Mayor Parnas was sitting there with me, and Commissioner Drosky and another person, who was that? Joe. And for your efforts, on behalf of the citizens of Deerfield Beach, especially those of us in District 2, we got the money for funding for the Brandhilda Richardson Memorial Park. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I've never told you that. I want to thank you dearly, because not only does it mean so much to me, but when I go out of town, I get so many questions about it. And I'm just thankful that you were there holding my hand to get through that project. And Commissioner Parnas, marijuana, I got you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Couldn't have done it without you.
I'm not exactly sure what that's about, but we're gonna leave it at that. But I'm jealous I wasn't there, apparently. Maybe I was, I don't know. Anyone else? Okay, with that, I'm gonna close it to the public. For all of you tonight, thank you for your comments and questions. To answer a couple questions and to deal with it. First, I want to thank Local 4321 for what they did for the Packer Rattlers. That's tremendous, and it should be a signal to what's happening in this city on how, when we get the right people in there and you return back to the history of it, how everybody's excited and embraces it. And I see nothing but good things ahead. So congratulations to the Packer Rattlers and their leadership, but thank you to Local 4321 for that. I'm not going to talk anymore about Peggy, as I already have, but Peggy, again, thank you so much. And Mr. Bradley, thank you for your comments regarding the Aquatic Center. It is good to know that it affects not just Deerfield Beach. This is more a regional thing. So it's a great thing to know. Mr. Callendine, whatever staff didn't get back to you, we're going to get to the bottom of that. That shouldn't happen. So sorry that it's happened. And I wish you'd given me a call, but I appreciate it. And we'll make sure that staff gets with you on that, and city manager, please make sure that is addressed. As far as Mr. Hines goes, I don't think, I'm pretty sure our auditors would disagree with you on what happens with that money. It's a lot more complex than what you're saying. And I'm pretty sure that all the auditors and all the people that look at it, I'm going to go with their word and not yours, if that's all right. But you like to throw around corruption and things like that, and you discovered it and found it. I'm pretty sure if you just read our budget book, it wasn't really hard to find. So I don't think it's a big mystery, but I appreciate your comments. Representative Reed had questions regarding the public address system. Do we know when that's going to be addressed?
From the original contract work that was done, the AV system has not been working properly, and Environmental Services is having to readdress the system to get that online. So we do have our own internal IT department also working on it to get all of the AV equipment up and running. It should be within, let's see, is Greg here? About how long? 3 to 4 weeks. 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see, there was something as far as agreeing with us or disagreeing with us. I'll steal from Mayor Ed Koch from New York that if you agree with me 70% of the time, vote for me. If you agree with me 100% of the time, have your head examined. Okay. So to paraphrase, but that's the truth. And that's kind of the way that things fall. I think that answers all the questions that I'm going to answer that I see. I just want to make sure. It's my last long one, guys. You stuck with me for a minute there. Okay, I think I have everything. But well, I do want to say this, Commissioner Battle, thank you for that. And I appreciate it. It was an honor to serve with you. And thank you for all your work on that, because if it was not for you, bringing to light some of the things it did, and I see Terry Scott sitting with you, and I remember in those same seats, I think it was Miss Vellamina who stood up that night when we were voting on something to approve for a developer to build over the old black cemetery. It stood up and said, my grandmother's buried there. And that silenced the room. That paused us. We remember that we stopped at that moment and said, we're going down the wrong path and we need to look at this. And sure enough, we were right. And she was right. And you guys were right. So thank you for that, because if not for those statements coming forward, that's tremendous. I think that's all I have. I think that answered all the questions, I think.
Okay, we are now at the consent portion of tonight's agenda. Items 5 through 8 are currently on consent.
Are there any polls by the commission? 5 through 8? Okay, not seeing any polls. Anyone from the public care to comment on 5, 6, 7, or 8? Just show of hands. Not seeing anyone. I'm going to close it to the public then. Commission?
Motion to approve items 5 through 8.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hudak, seconded from Commissioner Parnas. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Hudak?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Commissioner Preston?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Drosky?
Yes.
Mayor Gans?
Yes.
Item number 9 is a resolution of the City Commission, of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving the rankings and funding allocations to charitable and public purpose organizations for the Community Participation Grant Program in a total amount not to exceed $150,000, providing for implementation and an effective date.
Thank you.
Greetings, Mayor, Commission, Jonathan Salas, Director of Community Services. And tonight, this item is the city's annual community participation grant. So for those who aren't familiar with this grant, to give a little context, this grant is to provide financial resources to our local nonprofits who assist with the public purpose we have here in the city of Deerfield Beach. In fiscal year 25, the city received 14 applications totaling a little over $232,000 in requests. The budget for community participation was $150,000. A committee that was assembled, an evaluation committee that was assembled by the city manager, reviewed these 14 applications, and tonight they make a recommendation before the city commission to adopt and approve these recommendations. So this year, we made some changes to the community participation grant. We heard the commission loud and clear over the past years. So this year, the scoring criteria was a little different. We aligned the grant with our strategic plan. So you'll see that we scored these applications based on environment, lifestyle quality, and local preference, customer care, and engagement. So tonight I come before you and ask that you approve the recommendation that this evaluation committee has made.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commission, any comments before we open it up to the public? Not seeing any. Okay. Anyone from the public here to comment on this item? Anyone online? Yes, Representative, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Gwen Clark Reed, 1430 Southwest 6th Way. I just wanted to know, would we ever be able to increase that amount of money that's in that budget line? Because it seems like that 150,000, this is the second or third year that I've heard that amount. So I'd like to know if there's any way of increasing that amount.
Thank you. Anyone else? No, I'm gonna close it to the public. I believe, what was the previous amount? Because I know that's an increase from what it used to be. And I think the simple answer is yes, of course.
It is a commission decision during the budget time to determine what that amount will be for the following year. And I believe it was a slight increase over last year, but I believe it was a minimal increase. Was it 25,000 over last year?
Yeah, that's okay. That's what I thought. But to answer your question is yes, that can increase depending on what the commission's directives are. Okay. All right. Any comments from the commission?
Motion to approve.
Motion from Commissioner Parnas.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Preston. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hudak,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Drosky,
Yes.
Mayor Gantz.
Yes.
Item number 10 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving and authorizing a 6-month code enforcement lien amnesty program as set forth in the attached Exhibit A, providing for conflict, severability, implementation, and an effective date.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, Vice Mayor, City Manager, residents of Deerfield. My name is Roy Davis. I'm the Code Manager of the City of Deerfield. I appreciate you giving me a moment to go ahead and present the new amnesty program, which we're hoping that you vote yes on tonight. This program was first presented back in the December meeting by, at that time, City Manager Rodney Brimwell. Looking at the code amnesty program, the purpose is to improve the neighborhoods by offering incentives of compliance. Okay. All participating properties must be in compliance with codes. What do incentives prove for helping the neighborhoods? It reduces attractiveness for criminal activity. It allows and empowers residents with their property to instill community pride. It gives a clear title to the residents and businesses within our city, which then, what does a clear title do? It allows them to sell property, improve properties with future loans, obtain mortgage and loans, and bequeath properties to the loved ones. Furthermore, it reduces taxpayers' costs. Every code compliance case that's currently open requires re-inspections from investigators on a monthly basis. By creating a code amnesty program and allowing residents to go ahead and close those cases, we're then removing the re-inspections, which would then, once again, assist in taxpayer money being used in better places. It also cuts it back in abatement services. Abatement services are basically when the city has to take care of someone's property. So vacant land that's not being taken care of, the city will take care of that property up front at the cost of the city and then try to reclaim it later. It'll cut magistrate court hearings, and it will also cut tax filings and court filing liens. Lastly, this will reduce the amount of unpaid liens within the city. Currently, the city has about $140 million in unpaid liens. There we go. Give me one second, I apologize. So under the program, there'll be 4 types, 3 types of properties which are allowed to be participating in the amnesty program and 1 which is not. Up here, you'll see the first 3 types. Type 1 is a residential property, which is homesteaded. Homestead is going to be decided through the Broward County Property Appraiser with an effective status of November 2024. The application for this program must be made by the legal or legal co-owner, which basically means only those 2 people are allowed to come forward with the program. Type 2, residential property without the homestead exemption. This would include second homes, short-term rentals, properties of this nature. It's a single family or multi-unit with no homestead recorded at the BCPA, and it will allow vacation rentals and things of that nature to come back into compliance, allowing for businesses to be continued within the city. Type 3 is non-residential property. This consists of commercial business, industrial business, vacant land, and underdeveloped land. Lastly, type 4, these are the properties that will not qualify under our new amnesty program. These are properties that are currently in bankruptcy, are going through the foreclosure process, are in current auctioning process, have pending or active lawsuits with the city. That applicant of the property owner of the property with outstanding pending current fees will not be able to apply. So looking at this, we'll go through each one, just one by one. So if you have any questions, please stop me at that time. Type 1 is a residential property with a homestead exemption. So using our mathematical equation for this, what we're going to do is we're going to take the adjusted market value. And adjusted market value is a deciding number, which is basically the just market value, which is decided by BCPA on property, and we're removing $100,000 from it. From that property number, we will then take a 4% of the adjusted market value to find out what that number is. And I'll explain this at the next slide. The other option in which we're going to look at is the reduction total of lien. So we're going to either take 4% of the adjusted market value or 87.5% of the reduction lien to get that lien number for the resident. I know it's kind of confusing right now, but it's probably 1, me explaining it, and 2, not having the next slide. So I'll show you the next slide. So using this as a hypothetical, the single family home worth $260,000. That's your BCPA just market value. If they have liens or fines of $67,000, these fines are 26% of the home's value. Utilizing our program and the mathematical equations, 4% of the adjusted market value, which is 260 minus the 100 that we came up with, would leave a total of $6,400 for that property lien. The other way we would look at it is the 67,000, which is the total liens, and taking away 87.5% of that lien, which would leave us with $8,375. Out of those two, we would then choose the lower of the two. So the amnesty amount on a $67,000 lien on a property that's worth $267,000 would come into the city at $6,400, a 90% reduction of the fines, or 2.5% of the home's value. Type two residential property is without homestead, as we've said. The minimum cost recovery of this would be $1,750. That's 30% of the reduction of the average administrative costs. In this formula, 7% of the just market value, or 85% of the reduction of liens, would be how we would take it. It's the lesser of the two. So utilizing that same house, this time without the BCPA homesteaded fact, at $260,000 with $67,000 in fines, again, 26% of the home's value. Under the type two and non-homesteaded property, 7% of that just market value, the 260, would equal $18,200. If we then looked at it at taking away 85% of the lien of the 67,000, you would get a lien total of $10,050. Looking at both of those numbers, we would take the lower number. So the amnesty amount of $10,050 would be taken from the lien instead of 67,000. That's an 85% reduction on a non-homesteaded property, or 4% of the home's value. Third property type, as we discussed, is going to be your commercial, your industrial, business, vacant land, or developmental property. In this scenario, the minimum cost recovery for the city would be $2,500. The two formulas for this would be either 10% of that just market value, which again is through BCPA, or a 70% lien reduction. So looking at this formula, we change up the numbers a little bit due to commercial, but a non-residential property or commercial property with a just market value of $560,000, hypothetically with $95,000 in liens. These liens are about 17% of the property value. 10% of that 560 BCPA number, that just market value, would be $56,000, or a 70% reduction of that $95,000 lien would be $28,500. So looking again at the lower of the two numbers, the amnesty amount for this property to pay the city to come into compliance would be $28,500 instead of that original $95,000, a 70% reduction of liens, or 5% of the property value. So just going back through it real quick over the three that we talked about. Type one is a homesteaded property. It's a minimum cost recovery. So that's a minimum the city would accept on any lien would be $1,500. It's 4% of the adjusted market value. The adjusted market value again is the BCPA number minus that 100,000, or an 87.5% reduction of lien, whichever is lower. Type two, that's your non-homesteaded residential. This reduction of cost minimum to the city would be $1,750. It's a 7% of the just market value. In this case, it's just the BCPA market value. There is no removal of the 100,000. So it would be 7% of the just market value of the property, or an 85% lien reduction. Finally, your commercial, vacant land, those types of properties, the cost recovery minimum would be $2,500. It'd be a 10% of the just market value, or a 70% lien reduction, whatever is lower. Finally, any property, and this goes for all properties, with liens below the cost recovery. So say you have a home with a $1,200 lien on it, it would be a $250 dismissal fee paid to the city. So quick detail overview. If approved, we're hoping that the program will begin tonight and go through September 3rd, 2025. Any resident who has an application in by September 3rd, it'll be looked at and gone through. The The residents will be notified two separate ways. One will be through mailer, mass mailer. If you have a lien, we have a company that's going to do that. We're also going to do door hangers. So in April, we will send out a list, mass mailer to all the residents, commercial property owners within the city who have an open lien, let them know that we're running this program. We will also then, about 30 days later, do a door hanger at all those same properties. The application will be available online and in person. It'll be available at 580 South Powerline Road, which is the code compliance office. And upon acceptance, the city will provide a final lien payoff, which will be that number of the less number of all three properties. Within 90 days, if paid, the city will then bring it in front of the magistrate for certification and will provide a clear and title. Are there any questions?
I think so. Commissioner Parnas?
Yes, sir.
It seems to me we're encouraging people to violate the code and get away cheap. If they break the law and they are fined, they're responsible to pay it. If it were income tax, which I just paid yesterday, the government didn't say, well, you're going to be out of a job at the end of the month, so give us 10% of what you owe us. No. I think it's going to encourage the scofflaws from running up liens and asking for amnesty when they should be paying for what they did. If they have an illegal operation, if they don't have a roof that's proper, they did things without permitting and got written up. Why are we letting them off so cheap? Because it's difficult to collect. I'd rather give it to a collection agency.
Sir, may I have a moment to address that?
Sure.
So first of all, and if I didn't explain this, I apologize. We are only dealing with properties that are in current compliance. If you are currently open with a lien and you're running, you're in violation, you will not be able to participate until you come into compliance. So if you've done work without a permit and you got caught and you still have yet to get your permit, you would not be part of this program. Once you got your permit and once your case was complied, then yes, you could ask for amnesty from the city. A portion of this and why we're asking for this is not just collection, but I think it was you maybe who said, if we're not growing, we're dying. If we are taking all of these liens and we're putting these large liens on properties that then can't get loans to benefit their homes, to make their properties look nicer, to benefit their neighborhoods, I think in the long run, the city is actually getting worse in the process from these liens than benefiting from them just sitting on properties. By giving property the availability to come in, pay a small amount of due for the mistakes that you made, but then come back out where you can get loans, improve your property, make your neighborhoods look better, make the residents in the area look better. I think in the long run, the city of Deerfield will benefit.
Thank you.
Sir.
Commissioner Hudak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think a key component of this is their fines do not get reduced until they actually come into compliance. And they have until September 4th to come into compliance. So if they have this opportunity, this is an ability for them. You know, there are a lot of people whose, you know, their fines are above the actual value of their homes, and they're never going to bring their homes into compliance. And the neighbors are the ones that have to deal with these disheveled homes and these property owners. This gives those individuals who actually want the ability to improve their homes, the ability to actually get their homes or their properties into compliance, and kind of gives them an incentive to do that. So I actually think this is a great way of thinking outside of the box and trying to, A, get some of these fines off of the city books, and B, help these individuals who have put their properties in compliance to actually, you know, be able to sell their homes or, you know, get other loans for their house, whatever the case may be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, just for a point of clarification, it ends September 3rd. I don't want the wrong date to be out there. And that's by the time that the application has to be in. For the residents, it's better the sooner that they are in the program, because the sooner that they can get the inspection of the compliant properties. We do have properties that are compliant already. But the incentive here is to remain in compliance as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Preston?
It's important to remember that absence of the amnesty program, and you have a situation where there's mounting liens and fines and that sort of things. So where does it end? How do you get it to come to an end? Putting it in collection, that doesn't bring an end to it. This is a program that will allow the city to put the books in order. And the city has to be very careful. Even when you have mounting fines, the city has to make sure that it does not appear that if you have so much fines in your house that we will take your home. It just in that perception alone is not good. So this is something that is actually going to benefit our city and allow us to clean up the books, because right now there are people out there with just mounting fines, and there is no end to it. This is the first time that we've had something that actually addresses it and brings about some measure of closure.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. So explaining to me how this helps get people an incentive for compliance. They can't participate unless they're in compliance, correct?
That's true, Mayor.
Okay, so just pause for a moment. So it's not a matter of putting this in place to get people to come into compliance, because in order to participate, they have to be in compliance.
Yes, sir.
Right. So what this is really is an incentive for all of these situations we have in which you've got people trying to either sell their home or get out from under, or people pass away and they stay stagnant because they've got these giant fines that have piled up. And they can't get out from underneath them. So for someone trying to sell them, my understanding is if you're trying to sell that home or you're trying to do anything really beyond, opportunity to improve that home, or not just beyond, but including trying to improve that home, you're limited by what's hanging over your head on this. And this is a matter of trying to clear the slate and give people the opportunity to move the property. I think even refinancing is a problem if they've got these liens on there, correct?
Yes, sir. We get issues from title companies all the time, just people trying to refinance. I look at this as twofold. First of all, is properties that are already in compliance that have either enormous fines or even very little fines. This gives an opportunity to that resident to come out from underneath it at a much less rate, right? Even a $2,500 fine, significant to the normal human person, I would believe, right? We're giving them a much less number to come out from underneath it to then move forward. In cases where people are not in compliance, we have several homes within the city that are not in compliance for, I would call them small violations, but because they are running fines, they've almost given up. So if we are giving them an opportunity to, if you put the grass in your front yard, we will comply you. Then we will, on top of that, give you an extra opportunity to significantly lessen that fine that's already burdening you so that you can then move forward. I think that's also a great opportunity for a lot of the residents within the city of Deerfield.
Okay. So that gives them the opportunity to, if you come into compliance, we'll give you the opportunity to clear the slate. So that's the motivation to try to get them to come into compliance.
Yes, sir.
And obviously we can't foreclose on properties that are homesteaded, right? So this is, when we have situations, the different categories that we were given, it gives us the opportunity to come up with a different solution than having to foreclose on some of these properties.
Yeah. So liens are allowed to stay for 20 years on a homesteaded property.
Yeah.
So this allows that homeowner to go ahead and relieve themselves of that lien.
So, the one thing that doesn't, I understand the concept of this, and I would say that I tend to agree with this to be able to do that, to move us forward, because over the years of doing this, I've seen plenty of homes where, yeah, they want to sell the property, but they're going to get $75,000 for it, but they got $125,000 worth of fees. What ends up happening is our attorneys get involved and we work and negotiate because you got an eyesore. Yeah, it's in compliance, but they've got a ton of, it's never going to get improved. They want to get rid of it. They want to dump it, but we can't do anything because they've got this albatross hanging over their head. So I understand it from that point. Here's where, as a former HOA president, as somebody who served on the code enforcement board. And by the way, I hate code enforcement. No offense to you, but
None taken.
I served on that board. I don't care who does it. It was BSO. Everybody likes to say, oh, we need to bring it back in-house and have us do it again. We never did it that way. Wake up, people. It was BSO. We always farmed it out. It was either BSO or somebody else doing it. It always sucked, as far as I'm concerned. Excuse my language, but kick me out next week. So here's the bottom line. It's terrible. It's always a pain in the neck. The pendulum, it's either too severe or it's not enough. And I'm never satisfied with it. Haven't been. And Dean Callan and Todd, we all served together back on that board when we were the ones giving out the fines on it. So there is a little bit of punishment we want from those people, because when you're the neighbors that sat next to these pieces of junk forever, that you're like, they're getting fined or whatever, it's frustrating as heck. You go, well, one day they're going to get theirs. Well, the truth of the matter is, it's just a wish. It's a number that doesn't really come to fruition if you can't collect on it. So that's why when people say, well, there's millions of dollars that the city has in fines. Yes, most of them will never something we can ever grab. So I get that. It's hard for me to vote on this, approving it, because it is frustrating for having been around homes that are like that. And we put in the abandoned property ordinance back in the day because we had people that would leave their house at banks when all the foreclosures were going on, let pools and everything fall apart. The city was paying money to do that. We've got all that relieved, but I think this amnesty program allows the city to take some properties that are problematic and gives us the opportunity to move forward. It's a limited window to do it. It doesn't give you that satisfaction of, hey, they're getting theirs. But, you know, the bottom line is it gives an opportunity to maybe have those properties move forward and advance onto a new, better owner. I'm okay with that. So, Commissioner Preston?
Thank you, Mayor. I think also there has to be a common sense approach to how you educate the public. For instance, it would be very easy for a code officer to identify a home that needs a lawn. And, you know, and when code enforcement comes, people are intimidated, that sort of thing. I happen to know of a situation, actually several, where they said you need to put new grass down, and that was actually the case. They did that in the middle of the summer with no irrigation. The grass died, and now they're in a worse situation. Once something like that happens and it's identified, you need to put it in a lawn. Let's start, you know, working out, you know, a program where in 2 months, 3 months, or whatever, you got your irrigation system in. And then you move to the next level until finally you get the grass in. Because when people automatically go and buy pallets of grass, especially in the summer, and it's not properly irrigated, they lose it. And nothing good has happened as a result of that. It will help our public relation, actually, and how we deal with people if we think it out. A common sense approach to say, this is how we're going to resolve this. 4 steps, 5 steps, whatever it may be.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. Well, it's not part of the amnesty program. We are working on community contact as first steps now, where the inspectors are actually meeting with the residents and the business owners and explaining it better, what we're asking for them, and giving real timetables rather than just citing for violations.
Okay.
One thing kind of paralleling that, if you've got people out there who have a fine that they're not aware of, they're homesteaded, they've been here forever, and suddenly someone comes up. Now, I'd imagine to get to that point, to get to those fines, there's a lot of steps, but do we have the ability to prove that these people were actually served and all those? Because what I've heard about are residents who said, 20 years ago, I got a fine. I had no clue it was running. I happened to come into compliance, or people stopped checking. It stopped, or it's been running up, and I had no clue about this. How does that work to address?
During the code process, based on statute 162 from the state, there are steps that require the city to prove service, is what they call it. So that's either through certified mail or actually posting the document on that property. That is part of the service portion of telling a resident, in fact, that they have a hearing. Further, during the hearing process, when the magistrate makes a ruling, that is then considered an actual finding of fact, which the magistrate then has to sign. and it is uploaded into the GovEasy process, which is your online communication portal of everything that's happening with that property. So if somebody, for instance, says, I don't believe that happened, I'm actually able to pull a code compliance summary report that will show the dates of everything that happened. It'll have notes of what occurred. It'll have a picture of that finding of fact and the orders issued by the magistrate back into that date. We're up into include, like, we have an $80 administrative fee that we're now seeing. We've sent out notices and people are just simply asking, can you show me the code compliance? And we do. We provide that summary report, and it seems to be, that's what most residents are looking for.
Okay. Thank you.
No problems.
I'm going to let you step aside. I'm going to let the public come up and speak on this. Anyone from the public care to comment on this item?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Felicia Portier, 233 Southwest First Terrace, Deerfield Beach. First of all, I've been through all forms and all sorts of code issues. I think this is a wonderful program, and I really wish you all would vote for this. This is going to help so many people. As Mr. Davis was talking, I was thinking about all of those different aspects of code and code enforcements and liens and fines and coming into compliance that we have been through. 15 years ago, well, 12 years ago, tenant went into our commercial building. At that time, code was simply posting the notice on the building. We had no clue. The thing went to the magistrate, it was fine, it was this, that, fines, daily fines started. We had no clue. Before we knew it, we had over $100,000 in fines. There was another situation where we had a certified letter. Well, let me go back. As people were complaining about not being notified, you have absentee owners. How is an absentee owner of a vacant lot who lives in New Jersey going to see a posted violation on a stake in the ground? But it was ruled that that was proper notice. So then they moved another step to notifying by certified mail the owners of the property when a hearing was in effect. On the third go round with this horrible tenant, that's how we found out. But then guess what? Had the hearing, it was time for the next hearing. Next thing you know, another problem. Certified letter, guess what? Wrong address. But in that case, because of the slip that the mail person left in the mailbox, I was able to prove that it was the wrong address and that we never got the notice, etc. But by that time, we got another $50,000 in daily fines. Eventually, of course, everything was in compliance, but we can't pay the fine at that point, at that amount. But here we are now with an opportunity. If we have this opportunity to pay just a portion, and I'm talking about fines for, in this case, the grass, the irrigation system, as you were talking about. We put in 2 sets of grass. Tenant, please, water, water, water. We have a system. We had a system. Know what the tenant did? Tenant said, oh, I don't like your system. I'm going to change it. Know what the tenant did? Started a new, may I have a moment?
Yes, you can finish.
Started a new irrigation system without a permit. So then now I got to get the attorney involved. So now I got all kinds of problems. But this, if you all would approve this, and not just in my situation, we have this story on at least every street in Deerfield, from the beach to the turnpike. And I would implore you and beg you, please vote for this. Thank you.
Gloria Battle, 1240 Southwest 6th Deerfield Beach, Florida. Commissioners and Mayor, I'm a little torn about this one. I understand the value of an amnesty program, and I agree that there are certain entities that should be granted amnesty. I was sitting right where one of you, but all of you are sitting at one time when I got served. And it was over the grass. I have allergies to all kinds of grass. They stayed on me until I put that grass in my yard. But now, over the Christmas holidays, or whenever we went to this code compliance bit instead of code enforcement, I had people to come into town and made the remark, oh, it looks like you live in a third world country. Because my neighbors, their properties, they go in on the weekend, they put in pavers. There's no code enforcement officer coming around. Nobody knows what's going on in the code enforcement arena. We need to shore that up before we start with this amnesty program. I agree with amnesty, which should be given to some people, but until we clear up the code enforcement issue, I don't think that we need to move on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clara Cardi, Deerfield Beach resident also. In clarification to answer, number one, I want to say thank you for letting me speak. Number two, our code officers and our code officer in charge, Mr. Davis, is doing a phenomenal job. As he mentioned to you, that if a person has a problem, they can come to them and they spend time and they describe and explain what's going on with the property. I deal with them with code enforcement. And one of the things that I think that has not been brought forward is when there is a lien on a property, Florida has a law. No, what it is that if you get a lien on your property and you buy my house, I don't have to tell you. If you buy my house, which is called as is, nothing is told. Therefore, 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later, all of a sudden you get a document. Now you want to go for a mortgage or refinance or something. This is when you find out. So these are the things that program is really going to help, because of the fact that this is a law and a rule that no lawyer can change. The fund program of the lawyers does not do it, and it will not change. Therefore, the properties as is number one, that's of serious cause, and just in buying property. If you come to my house and you bought my house, I don't have to tell you my air conditioner has a problem. The problem with that is 6 months later, a year later, the reason why I had a problem with my air conditioner is because I put an air conditioner in without a permit. Permit creates code, code creates a lien. So these are the things that, no, we're not promoting them by any means. What we're doing is we're trying to get the people who have been in circumstances like the transferal of property or the rentals of property or the rental people who have not helped for their landlord, take and do that further step. So please take this under consideration, because whether it's a business or a family member, there are many, many people that are in really need of trying to get these lower rates with these refinances or finances or sales, but this is what's stopping them. And once they are in compliance, you've already got them correcting what was wrong. So it isn't like you're going out, and no, you're not promoting it, because if I was going to do something wrong, I'm not going to say, well, I can always go do it wrong. Deerfield's going to do that. No, Pompano did it. Other cities did it. No, you have to be in compliance first. Therefore, this is really a good opportunity for our city, as well as all our members and residents and our businesses. So give us a chance. Don't let this happen. Please pass it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Davis Swenson, 810 Southeast 7th Street. Commissioner Preston, I liked where you were going with this. My thoughts are, I am in favor of the program, but there may be people out there that don't have the money to put the grass in. And so they can't get into compliance because they may be older people or people on a fixed income, or don't have the means to to get this done? What could we do for them? Maybe start at the very beginning. I like this program because I think it'll help people that are already there, but I think we have to look down the road here, because we do have a lot of code violations, and not to say this, but not all the code people know the codes that are giving us the violations, because there are some violations that were against the Palm Plaza for the parking, and they got it at the American Legion, which was sent over to Dave Santucci, since the city owns the property. So, you know, my condo, we got a code warning because we weren't recycling properly. The city of Deerfield, if I'm not mistaken, hasn't recycled in like 3 years. So, and I still have it if anybody wants to see the little warning thing. So I think that if we could figure out some way to take some of the people that are in need, maybe some of the nonprofits could get involved as a service project to lay grass or help what they can to start getting the people that have maybe some of the smaller code violations first, and then the work up to big ones going down the line. Just a thought. Thank you.
If I only knew somebody in the service industry. I had no idea.
Good afternoon, Commission, or good evening, actually. Joe Cummings, 267 Oak Ridge P. You know, all these examples that we just heard about are referring to single family dwellings. As Commissioner Parnas knows, the ones that him and I personally have had to dealt with are condominiums. And what happens is you get people that buy a condominium either by a quick deed change at Marty Clark's office, or they buy it at a sheriff's sale. And what happens is they get, either they do it themselves or they get a handyman, which is just another name for a unlicensed contractor in Broward County. So what happens is we get people that go in and change out the hot water heater and put in a tankless hot water heater, and do not check and see whether they have a 60 amp service or a 100 amp service. And it creates a fire hazard for everyone else in that building. So you have a 96 unit building, a high rise, and you have a fire in those things. That is an easy way to avoid your fire insurance. So these people that do this on a common basis, they come in, they're flippers, and they're scofflaws. They will deal with whatever encumbrances that the city puts on them, but they take chances because generally they're not caught unless somebody's paying attention. So in these cases, these scofflaws should not be given any type of consideration whatsoever. They're putting a lot of people's lives in jeopardy and the loss of a person's domicile for an extended period of time because they have to fight with the insurance company. So when someone is astute and they do notify code and code comes out and they do find them and warns them that after 14 days, the fines will go up for every day that's left in there. Those fines should not be forgiven. There needs to be a stop on scofflaws, and that is a matter of safety and fire safety, because we also put the lives of the firemen that go inside and have to make entry. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, John Slattery, 1455 Southeast 5th Place. So a couple of things with this. So one is I wonder about how this affects the balancing and the budget and everything. Does this show up as receivables that are due when we think about the budget? And then are we voiding out part of those receivables, or is there a run rate that typically comes in from these type of infractions that you'd look at on an annual basis? You know, there's a run rate of income from it. And then one other thing, and I don't know how much this contributes actually to these violations, but just as a homeowner here, when I call a contractor to come out and give me a price on something, because I was looking at doing an addition to my house, a lot of contractors won't come to Deerfield Beach to give you a quote. Or if they do, you end up with a higher price, and they just say it's just because dealing with the permitting process in Deerfield Beach tends to be onerous and difficult. So just a little bit of feedback from a homeowner that's the feedback we're getting is the permitting process and the building department here are difficult to work with and expensive, and it just drags things out for a long time getting work done. So they don't want to deal with it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sure. Representative? Okay, Ms. Freitag, go ahead.
Katie Freitag, 418 Southeast Second Street. I know a couple years ago, or actually in last year during the budget talks when we came across this, and I know as something that John just brought up, the millions and millions and millions of dollars that are tied up in receivables for the city from all of these homes that are not in compliance. How does that affect our bond situation? How does that affect our overall financial outlook for the city? I know that we talked about it, but we never were given a clear answer on that. I'm definitely in favor of an amnesty program. I'm aware that, yeah, there are certain people that should not be granted the amnesty, but if we could give them a chance to get clean and get everything legit on the books, it's very important to give everybody a chance for a fresh start. I definitely think this is a great program, a great way to make this happen and hopefully clear off the city's books a little bit to make them a little bit more financially feasible and correct moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Representative, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I heard some discussion there about helping people with their problems beforehand, as Commissioner Preston was talking about putting in a sprinkler system before you put in the grass. The Target Area Fund, I know in District 2, this is what the Target Area Fund is supposed to be used for. That's why when I asked last commission meeting about, even though we are all in agreement to give the money to the Pack of Rattlers, was there money, how much money was left in that fund? Because when that fund was established, it was established for the people who had small things that needed to be done that were within a certain range of funds to bring up their properties, and so that they wouldn't be ending up with code enforcement liens. So I'd like for the commission to go back and look at that program and to implement those things that can be implemented to stop folks from getting involved with code enforcement and liens. Now, I want to also ask, if you have somebody that you're working with, and the amount of money that they need to pay within that period of time that you're giving them, can they go on a payment plan with the city in order to pay off this maybe $6,400? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? And close it to the public. Commissioner Parnas.
I'll tell you what bothers me. There's minor infractions like, oh, you don't have grass. That's one thing. But people that put in a hot water heater in an apartment house and don't use a licensed contractor, use a handyman, and it bursts and floods 3 apartments and you sue them, and they go, so sue me, put a lien on my property. This is not going to fix it. There are dangerous things that people do because they don't care about their neighbors. Period. Hot water heaters now have to be hardwired. It cost me an extra $300 to bring in a licensed electrician with a permit on top of my hot water heater permit, because the wiring had to be done a certain way last year in December, and I had to pay it. There are people that put in a hot water heater and don't pay any licensed contractor. And they get away with it. And then they get caught. And we should give them amnesty because now they come and get a permit. In the meanwhile, for 6 months or a year, they endangered the lives of everybody else in the building. There has to, minor things are minor things. Like maybe storage in a driveway that shouldn't be there. That's minor. But when it comes to serious things that endanger the lives of other residents in the building, I don't see saying, okay, forget about it. We'll get you off. Wrong. They literally committed a crime by endangering their neighbors. And I can't see just saying, okay, so now they fixed it. Let's be nice. They shouldn't have done it in the first place. It is not accidental when you put in a hot water heater and a handyman says, I can save you $200 because you don't need a permit. You do need a permit. And why do you need a permit? Because the city inspector comes out and looks at the work and makes sure it's done correctly so that the chance of a fire and burning your building down is minimized. We cannot have blanket amnesty for everything. I say we don't vote on this until we have the city staff divide dangerous infractions against minor infractions. Minor infractions are one thing that maybe don't. Not having grass in the front is not going to endanger the lives of everybody in the building. But not having fire alarms or even a fire extinguisher on the wall in an apartment house can cost lives. And we're going to say, okay, it's all right. No, it's not all right. If you don't think enough of your neighbors and your property to protect it, why should the city? Somebody explain that to me. I think we need the time and the effort for the city staff to come up with what offenses can be amnesty and what cannot. I don't believe people who endanger the lives of the residents of their building should be granted amnesty because it's easier the city to collect something rather than a difficult task. We've handled other difficult tasks. We can handle this one. If you want to play hardball, get a glove. That's my opinion.
Thanks. Vice Mayor Drosky.
Thank you, Mayor. Is before us is a very limited amnesty program for properties that are in compliance that has a finite term, a beginning and an end. Somehow I think the conversation has morphed into an indictment on the entire code process, which we could all jump into this evening, but that's not what we're doing. I mean, the purpose of the program is to encourage compliance. I mean, we used to be the code enforcement, and then it changed to code, the term of the department changed to code compliance. And that was intentional because we were wanting people to come in compliance. We don't want the money. We don't need the money. I think the crazy comment, does this affect our bond rating and all of that? It has nothing to do with that. So those funds do not have any bearing on this. So but the true intention here is compliance. And then to Commissioner Harness's point is the example that he used is you have a bad person that doesn't get a permit, and to be eligible for this program, you now have to be in compliance. So you didn't get the permit, but you did get the permit. So now you're in compliance, and now you don't want to prove the program as like a penalty against them for the original act that they did when they did come into compliance. So
it's like a double penalty in my opinion, in that particular scenario, because they did come into compliance, but now we're penalizing them for not being in compliance in the first place. And how staff can determine the intent of a particular homeowner or business behind all of these, I think is impossible to do. So I'm okay with this limited program, and we can see where it goes. Maybe we expand it. Maybe we double the time for it if people want to come in compliance. But if somebody wants to sell their property to a new homeowner who then wants to come in and be a homeowner and take care of it and spruce it up, I think that's a good thing. I think someone that wants to take the time to get a code off of a lien off of the books, I think that's a good thing. Miss Portier, she's still here. Yeah, she's still here in the back. Her comment is that they didn't know that there was a lien on there because it went to the wrong address. I think that's the perfect example of what this program is intended to do. People that want to be in compliance, again, that's the name of the program, compliance. Those are the people that we should be reaching out to, and that those are the ones that are going to take advantage of the program. Those that have been thumbing their nose at the city are very unlikely to come and take advantage of this program unless they're trying to refinance or sell the property, or they have something else going on, maybe a home improvement loan. But again, those are things that we want. We want people to take advantage of the program, to bring their properties into compliance and to make them look better. That again, that is the goal of this. And so I would be in favor of it on those limited terms and see where it goes.
Thank you, Commissioner Hudak.
You know, we all look at these situations through a different lens. Most of us up here are in single family homes. And that's kind of the viewpoint that we look. But Commissioner Parnas does bring up a great point. We've got a situation in the Ocean Club where there was a fire in one of the units, and it's been 2 years, and individuals can't even enter their homes because this fire was started from unpermitted work. And the HOA is, has an issue with the owner. The insurance company has an issue with the owner, so there's lawsuits, and it's affected some common areas. And so there are 4 or 5 units where these individuals can't even, proceed with fixing their units, and they've been out of their homes for 2 years now. So I can understand Commissioner Parnas's challenge with this program, because the viewpoint he has is, he's got people, to the left, to the right, beneath him, and above him. And if any of them do something that's not permitted, it could adversely affect his home, where those of us who live in a single family home, we don't have those challenges. But the one thing that this program does offer is it's not finite. It's not infinite. It has a deadline. So it's not anything, it's a 6-month program. And if individuals do not take advantage of that program within that 6 months, they're not going to receive any of the benefit. So an individual who has put in a water heater, or doesn't have their fire alarms up to date, or they're not going to do it within that 6 months. They're just going to go on life. And if something happens, something happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. The individuals who want to take advantage of this program, whether it's because they have their property in compliance, but yet they still have these old fines, or maybe they purchased a home as is, and had no idea that the property came with a lien. Those individuals have an opportunity, 6 months, to take advantage of this program. And I think the program is a positive, because the individuals who actually want to do the right thing, this gives them the vehicle to do that. The individuals who don't want to do the right thing and never intended to do the right thing aren't going to do the right thing, whether we have an amnesty program or not. So to penalize those individuals who want to do the right thing because there are individuals that are never going to do the right thing and are not going to take advantage of this program, I think is the wrong avenue to go. So in listening to everybody's argument and everybody's positives and negatives, I'm still in support of this program.
Thank you. Question, if there's a lien on a property, let's take the situation that Commissioner Parnas brought up, there's a lien on the property. They got sued or whatever, they've caused damage that affected other, that doesn't affect this, right? This is strictly for liens on a property based on code enforcement fines, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Also on that, Mr. Mayor, if the city does mitigate the fine, it actually allows the others that are impacted by it, there's other equity that they would have access to for their damages that would not otherwise be there. So the city's liens are in place. If the city's liens are mitigated through the code amnesty program, it actually provides for more damage relief to those who may have been impacted in the other units.
Okay. I certainly hear all sides of this debate, and I think just to address the question that came up as far as our budget and the obviously with that much money out there, it certainly didn't affect our bond rating because it's nearly perfect. But is that accurate?
That's correct. This has no impact on that. One of the comments regarding the target area funds, those funds are still available, as we indicated before, for all of those incidental assistance that's needed for those who can demonstrate their lack of funds to bring that into compliance.
Okay.
So when they have something minor, like there's some
Right.
sod missing or something like that, and they can demonstrate that level of need.
How difficult would it be to take this back and say there are certain things that are not allowed for amnesty, especially when it comes to safety, the condo situation, and when it comes to people that are put in safety? Is that too difficult to do that?
It would be close to insurmountable because an individual case may have hundreds of pages of documents associated with it. And all of those would have to be, all of these cases have gone to magistrate. All of these cases have been litigated. There will be evidence. There's going to be testimony. There's all kinds of stuff, the original violations. So I think it would be nearly insurmountable for any level of staff to go through all of that.
Okay. So because this has a limited time to do it, it's a one-time only situation. One thing I've learned about sitting up here, sometimes we make the rules to try to block out a very small percentage of potentially bad things to happen and missing the fact that a large percentage of good is going to happen by doing that. Case in point, I used to have a very, very strong opinion about we don't name any buildings after anybody who's alive because I didn't want that person to do something stupid and we got to pull the name off and I listed cases, and I held that very firm for years. And what I realized is there's a lot of people, especially being up here for a long time, a lot of people that deserve to be acknowledged in their lifetime passed away without getting that knowledge, not getting honored that way. So I was firm on a rule that I was looking out for the outlier and worried about that rather than looking at what's the majority of the good that can be done with that. And I think that fits in this particular case. Are there going to be people that really are undeserving of getting, being able to take advantage of this? It shouldn't be allowed to. Yes, I think there will be a few, but I don't think it's going to be a lot. I think all the points point towards that if those people haven't done it before, they're not going to do it now. I think the greater good that this is going to do, and since it's pointed out by the city manager, it's too insurmountable to try to narrow the scope of it. If we do this for this limited a time, it's going to help the situations of the people who direly need it. And I think that's what we need to focus on as opposed to certain instances with a few people that might take advantage of the amnesty that really don't deserve it, in my opinion. Because your points are well taken, and the gentleman who spoke earlier about this are well taken. But I think this does a greater good. So I'm in support of this, and we're looking for a motion or not a motion on this.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion for Commissioner Hudak.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Preston. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Hudak?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
No.
Commissioner Preston?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Drosky?
Yes.
Mayor Gans?
Yes.
Okay, we are now at comments by administration and legal. I have one comment tonight as the legislative session gets underway at the state level. I know this is our last meeting before Broward Days, and I know some of you are going to be attending Broward Days. There's a number of bills being proposed, but one in particular I wanted to bring to your attention, which is Florida House Bill 943, which is another amendment to the Live Local Act. It's more preemption of your authority. It expands the scope of the type of properties that could potentially be eligible for Live Local, and has another number of other considerations in terms of mitigating the city's ability to apply parking requirements, et cetera. So I just wanted to put that at the forefront of your minds, given that Broward Days is coming up. And if you need any more information on that, you let me know. But I know Mr. Power and the city manager's office has also been tracking that one as well. And that's all comments from legal tonight.
No comments from city manager.
Really? My last full meeting, I don't have to listen to it? Really? Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Oh, that we're gonna embarrass you in a moment. Don't worry.
I thought that I was going to be seeing at least some of you at the next meeting as well. So I didn't
yeah.
want to let you go without
Yeah.
saying anything. Okay.
Okay.
I think the manager as well. Okay.
Next item then.
Item number 11 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving and adopting the Northwest Area Improvement Master Plan, providing for implementation and an effective date.
Code compliance,
I was
please
just-
look at the size of that
You
sign.
beat me to it. You beat me to it. It's a nice sign. Eric Power, Director of Planning Development Services, City of Deerfield Beach. Tonight, we're here to discuss the Northwest Area Master Plan adoption. And what is the Northwest Area Master Plan? So, looks like it's cut off a little bit. So essentially, the Northwest Area Master Plan is a study area that encompasses what we affectionately call the four corners of Hillsborough and Powerline Road, and the four residential and commercial segments of each portion of that. To blow it up a little bit further, this is the area. So you can see that essentially is the intersection of Hillsborough and Powerline and the areas that surround it, bordering Coconut Creek, the county line to the north, Military Trail to the east, and 10th Street to the south. So where did this come from? You know, I'm sure most of you remember we had an FAU study. We had an opportunity to work with an FAU graduate class during COVID, who had created some recommendations for us. The commission then allowed us to hire a consultant for us to move forward with an actual more in detailed study. That was the Stantec. That's who's helping us create the plan now. And so essentially what the plan was looking to do was to ensure quality redevelopment and supporting development of commercial residential trends and enhance connectivity and modes for transportation and uses. You know, this area, you know, all segments of the city are essentially dated to a time in which they were first introduced or built. So the majority of this area was built in the late 80s to 90s. So you see a very consistent type of home structure, a very consistent type of commercial design. In the 90s, you know, what you saw was a big box design. You saw oceans of parking in the front and commercial properties that were set back 400, 500, 600 feet from the roadway. That was the design concept of that time period. So when I say something is dated, I don't necessarily mean it's old. I mean it's dated to the time frame in which the development occurred, and that's what we see at this area. So in order to do this, the master plan, we did a SWOT analysis. I'm sure most people are familiar with what a SWOT analysis is, but these were the strengths of the area: well-maintained residential neighborhoods and homes, availability and distribution of park space, and high retail occupancy rates at shopping centers. We have, I think the number, I think it was 97% occupancy in this area for retail, which exceeds the national trend. Weaknesses, though, limited connectivity between residential neighborhoods and commercial centers, increasing vacancy rates of office and other commercial uses, and no recognition of an area or overall neighborhood. So while retail rates are very high, the national trend is that office rates have been dwindling. And this is, of course, even before COVID, but with COVID and after COVID, we see less and less demand for office. So that is one of the uses that not just in this area, but across the city and across the county and really across the country, we're seeing less and less demand for office space, the need for trying to maybe repurpose or revitalize office space. So the opportunities were to create a regulatory framework to enable quality mixed-use redevelopment that is compatible with current development trends and to incorporate secondary pathways within shopping centers. And the threats, which I want to talk a little bit more about after I create this presentation, continued changes to retail, big box, and the restaurant market. As I said, big box is really dead. It doesn't exist anymore. Big box really is defined as anything that was more than 20,000 square feet of area, up to, up more than 100,000 square feet of area. So sure, we still have a Target, but, we used to have a Sports Authority. We used to have, 3 main grocery stores in this intersection. We don't have any of those anymore. They get compartmentalized in smaller and smaller properties. And then, the restaurant market has dramatically changed. We don't have, and I say we again, from a national standpoint, larger sit-down restaurant is dwindling. There is more need for smaller, fast casual restaurant. There's more need for takeout restaurant. The market has really changed for people who would attend a larger sit-down restaurant, and chain restaurants overall. Sit-down restaurants are dwindling throughout the country. So again, the biggest issue that I think to discuss in tonight's presentation, and Anthony touched on it, is Live Local. And we brought this up in our public meeting, but the analysis that Anthony just created, for what could be coming this next year if Live Local is approved in essentially every other zoning district other than single family, is something to really discuss. And Live Local is a very real threat for this area, as we have portions of our commercial property here in the Four Corners that are not just underdeveloped, they're not in use. We have an area just east of the Target Plaza where there was a former outdoor nursery. I believe it was also a gym at some point, and a small medical plaza that's completely underutilized and is really ripe for redevelopment. That could potentially be a Live Local opportunity where we wouldn't have any ability to bring that item to the commission. So a plan like this helps us, protects us in a lot of ways, and I want to get to that in a moment, but there are a lot of things we really need to consider in wanting to redevelop some of these areas from what we call that traditional dated commercial to maybe something a little bit different. So again, when we looked at the master plan, one of the things that was really researched and scrutinized was connectivity. Obviously, we took this from the standpoint of these 2 major roadways, Hillsborough and Powerline, but there's several secondary roadways all throughout. And what you really see is that within the major residential communities that you have here, they're all segmented. That you can't get from one to the other without having to deal with one of these major arterials. You can't get to these commercial properties without having to get onto these commercial arterials. It's difficult for a pedestrian or a bicyclist to also want to access these services or get to a park or get to Quiet Waters. So you can sit there and create a list of all the great things that this area has, but it's segmented. It's separated. You got to get in a car to get to them. I wouldn't go walk from Target to Publix and then over to another store. I would get in the car. And I think everyone else would do the exact same thing, because not only is it a distance to walk in the sun with the traffic, but it's not pleasurable to do, and there's no real safe path to do it. So looking at the connectivity of this entire area was a large portion of what was reviewed. And how do we create connections? This is a way that maybe the city itself could be a little out of the box in creating additional connection points that would help access the community and the commercial properties, so that local residents would be encouraged to maybe walk or ride their bike or take one of those local roads to access something versus getting onto Hillsborough or Powerline, which would reduce the amount of trips and reduce the amount of traffic that's on those roadways. So this is just an example of some potential connections that don't exist right now that could exist, that we could look at existing into these areas. So some of the recommendations that came from this, you know, as I just mentioned, maybe to encourage internal street networks throughout design guidelines, consider mixed-use redevelopment, reduce building setbacks on internal streets, create a memorandum of understanding with FDOT, investigate where existing curb cuts could be retained, relocated, or removed, pedestrian bicycle facility enhancements, and improve crosswalks, pedestrian refuge islands. These all work in unison. Some of these are concepts because we do not own Hillsborough Boulevard or Powerline Road. Those are DOT roadways. In order for us to communicate our needs along those roadways, we have to really write it down and present that to DOT for them to review and analyze. We're currently discussing with DOT right now an improvement for Hillsborough Boulevard from Powerline Road to Military Trail. There's a project that's just about to begin right now on Hillsborough Boulevard from the Turnpike Bridge to 441. So they'll be moving east in a couple years. So trying to see if we can get some of these improvements through DOT is a big deal, or one of the ways in which we can do it. But also encouraging that mixed-use redevelopment. We really do need to consider that. In today's world, I think one of the things that people are looking for, and especially as Floridians grow in age, and they're looking for uses in which they don't need to necessarily get in the car and drive a long way to get there. They want to be able to live and work and play in the exact same area, whether they can get to health services, the coffee shop, the restaurant, the grocery store, the park with their dog. If they can do those things within walking distance or within a community that they feel safe to walk in, that is what is now we consider to be a downtown, these sort of localized downtowns. And that is what is a potential opportunity here. It doesn't mean we're creating additional traffic. It doesn't mean we're creating additional residents. It doesn't mean we're creating additional density. It means that it's an opportunity for responsible growth in this neighborhood while also trying to increase the traffic opportunities throughout the existing commercial and residential areas. So it's a way to, when we talk about what smart growth is, this is literally smart growth. This is trying to create an opportunity that already exists and property that already exists to enhance those uses. If you live in an area where you rely on other people from outside of your area to come in and use those shops and services in order for them to be viable, then you're not supporting, you know, your area is not supporting that community. A grocery store is typically for just the people in that area, but a retail store may need a larger, you know, outreach of people to make that retail store viable. And developers throughout the country, they look at that and they look at essentially the nodes in which those developers have to be. So if you have a T-Mobile store, right, it needs to be next to a Verizon store, right? But maybe they're only a mile away from each other. But a Home Depot or a Lowe's, you know, they could be 10 miles away from each other versus a Walgreens and a CVS, which need to be within 2-mile radius of each other. So all these different types of retail establishments, they recognize and they know how far people will drive to get to those establishments. What we have in some of our plazas are smaller uses, and they rely on that local traffic to be viable. So putting in additional residential that would therefore rely on those business uses, that's how we create and maintain some stability in our office and our retail markets. And that concludes that questions. I know it was the master plan was actually part of your backup. We held a public meeting. We provided the master plan to everyone who attended that meeting. I know this has been a larger process, a long process. One of the things that really did provide us some pause in this process was the Live Local. When Live Local came forward more than a year ago, how that was going to impact our analysis for this project really did make us consider these improvements. I think that what you'll see in the master plan is a list of opportunities that staff can begin working on. They range from cost and time. So if approved tonight, what you'll be seeing over the course of the next several years are recommendations from staff, whether through general fund budgeting or capital projects to do improvements in this area versus, there'll be time and money. So really coming down to what can we do in-house, what can we do quickly versus what do we need to really consider and spend time and money on in the future.
Thank you. So a couple of things on this, and I know, this is an action item, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So we're taking action on this. So some of the things we're looking to do, and you talked about some of the access, and I noticed if you bring up the one map that showed some of the access points. I believe it was, yeah, let me just go back a few. Or go forward. Yes. Thank you.
I'm getting there. This one?
Yes, this one here. So one of probably the most dangerous intersection in District 4 is the one that goes from the Deerfield Mall north to where Aldi's is across there. There are no turn signals on that. It's just a red light, green light. FDOT will not let us put turn signals in there.
Right.
And we have more car accidents there than probably anywhere else in District 4 right at that location because it is a free-for-all. You don't know if people are going left, right, straight, and it's a nice combo that ends in a collision there. But looking at these cut-throughs, these pathways, I'm seeing an arrow that looks like it's going into Quiet Waters Park.
That's one of the things we've discussed is potentially another entrance into Quiet Waters. That's just one of the things we've looked at. Essentially, there's a back road there behind the plaza, and wanting to look to see if that might be something that might be viable.
So one of the problems I would have with that, and this is just, I don't want to nitpick small things out of it, but just things that I want us to think about in the future, so Quiet Waters Elementary is that little pizza slice that's over there just to the left of that product, that location. Cars pile up there, they pull in there off Hillsborough.
I'm sorry, this may be a pedestrian only, just so you're aware.
Pedestrian only.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what these are looking to be.
Well, not all of them. These are just, some of them are, but that particular one.
Well, that makes a little bit more sense because some of these are going into private neighborhoods and private enclaves
Yeah.
that if you increase the vehicular traffic going into there, I see that being
Right.
problematic.
Some of these are for bike and pedestrian because that would be a way to encourage.
Makes a lot more
Yeah,
sense.
sorry,
Okay,
yeah.
that I appreciate that. That makes a lot more sense on it. So, I've heard this bantied around because there was a comment that one of my colleagues made about something that, this is a lot like what we do at Pioneer Grove, right? We came up with a master plan. We came up with an idea and things. This is not quite as robust because we're not giving design standards or anything like that, but we're looking at ways on how to enhance and encourage development there, the kind of development that we want, right? So, we did that with Pioneer Grove. The city doesn't own the property. We came up with guidelines and certain things that need to be done. And we're like, okay, developers, please come in. If you want to do this, you need to fall within this. And now we're trying to make some ideas that make this more useful, better for the residents, and entice the kind of development that we want. This is where, but at this point, we can only make suggestions and make some allowances that we consider this in the future. In the end, and the quote it's been attributed and was said by my colleague is that the developers are going to drive the bus on this stuff. Well, the truth of the matter is the city's not going to develop this property. The city can only add enhancements or opportunities to encourage proper development, but it's really going to be a developer who's actually interested in coming in there and doing things, right?
Yes, I would say in some regards to this particular plan, you're absolutely correct. I'm a very big believer in my time as a planner that if you build it, they will come. The infrastructure improvements and development opportunities can be created by the city when we do some of that groundwork. What's probably different between this plan and say the Pioneer Grove plan is that in the back of this plan is a sort of a checklist or roadmap for what the cities can do. The short-term goals, the long-term goals, some of the projected costs. Whereas Pioneer Grove, again, because we don't own the properties, all we can do is provide a redevelopment opportunity and incentives. But what we have done with Pioneer Grove is, as I'm sure you drove in today to find, is we're creating, additional capacity for stormwater drainage. That's one of the ways that we can create additional density, something that the city can do to incentivize a developer. So these are other things that we might be able to do that could encourage future development.
Right. And I agree with you that I think some of the live local is scary for some of that area to go in, because this has been hodgepodged over the years, and the access from the residents to be able to get it. I know those strips of that little skinny shopping center that runs along Hillsborough.
Deer Run.
Right by Deer Run. If you miss that, if you miss that turn, no one's,
right.
If you're heading east and you miss it, no one's circling back around to get it. Too much of a pain in the neck to do it.
Right.
Too dangerous to do it.
And those are the kinds of uses, as I was saying earlier, that they rely on the local business.
Absolutely.
They're not getting regional business.
No, and those are all, that's an entire strip mall that are all individually owned.
Right.
Which makes it really hard to develop.
Mhm.
So I just want that kind of clarity. It's like there are certain things the city can do to enhance, or certain actions the city can do.
Right.
That puts the control under us. But in the end, it's going to be, what are we going to allow a developer to do in order to make this into the kind of development that we want, not the development that we don't want over there.
Yeah. I'd also just point out that this is also a tool that can be used with DOT and South Florida Water Management, for us to try to encourage conversation with them for when those improvements come. I'm very aware of your comment regarding that traffic light. It's something we've spoken to DOT about multiple times, including the length of the pedestrian cross at Hillsborough and Powerline. To say we've gotten nowhere would be an overstatement. So,
I think we've really put the F and FDOT on that particular intersection.
But we continue to voice these concerns. And one of the ways that DOT will actually listen is when it's on paper and documentation, and what mentions memorandum of understanding, which is essentially, a city's statement that this is what we want, this is what we need. They can then take that information to their higher ups and say, cities have plans. That's what Vision Zero does for us. That's what projects like this do for us, is that we therefore can say, look, I've got a signed resolution from my commission. I've got a master plan that says we're supposed to be doing this, versus just having that conversation.
Yeah. Okay. That kind of gives us an idea here. And I think that's helpful, because I like the idea of changing some of the cutaways, because a lot of them don't make sense anymore, with the changes that have been there over the years. So, excellent. Okay. Thank you. Vice Mayor Drosky.
Sorry, just leave that slide up there, Madam Clerk. So this is being proactive in this Four Corners area of West Deerfield Beach, putting this plan together. And I know the Live Local has kind of shaped the plan and why it took us to the time that we're at right now. But if you look at it's to really enhance the connectivity is one of the major components of that, because the mayor was correct. Because if you're at the northeast corner at Target, and then you're trying to get to the southwest corner to Publix, and then you're trying to go to the southwest corner, it's very difficult to make those movements to go from one corner to the next. And you have, major stores on each of those corners. So it's very feasible that somebody on a Saturday or Sunday while doing their errands would want to go and visit each of those different corners, because they either live in that area, or this also services, Coconut Creek and South Boca Raton as well. So keep that in mind as well. This is not just serving the residents of West Deerfield Beach. It's the others that come to this area to do their shopping. But to make those movements, and I'm looking at the map, is very difficult to do. And you have the blue arrows as to what could be, improved connectivity in that area to kind of help, traffic, pedestrian, bicycle, and cars move from one corner to the next. And if you look to the right, you have where it goes from the purple, Mayor, you were talking about you see the small at the bottom, the small strip center. And as you move to the right, you have that arrow that crosses over into the Deer Creek and the Target shopping area. So that's one of the concerns that I think that you were talking about as well. So it's not just redeveloping, it's basically, just moving people around from one corner to the other in this particular area, because it is going to get more busy over time. And we had a very well attended workshop rolling out this master plan not that long ago. And the residents had a great, questions and a lot of things that were being brought out by my colleagues here tonight. And one of the things that was dispelled immediately is that no, there is no immediate project for this area. There's nothing that's being planned that this is in response to. This is us being proactive to putting in these enhanced connectivity movements potentially, and then also to help prevent, any unwanted development that may come in that particular area, given, the future of what the legislature has been doing. So I want to thank you, Mr. Power, and your staff. I know it's been a long haul on this, but I think we got it right. And we have, the plan and the incentives and the next steps as a guide map to go forward.
Thank you. Yeah, and just to your point, none of these are guaranteed. These are ideas and incentives we'd like to pursue. So that's why we're bringing it forward to you as part of the master plan. I mean, some of them to take the trips off of the main roads, where you could literally go from essentially 3 of those plazas without having to be on Hillsborough or Powerline, would be an amazing improvement to that area. It's just going to require a lot of work.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to open it to the public then. Anyone from the public here to comment on this item? I'm going to close it to the public then, Commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Yeah, right.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you, Mr. Power.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Item number 12 is discussion and potential action regarding county approval of Monarch Hill landfill expansion.
Taking the lead on that conversation.
This item is sponsored by Vice Mayor Drosky.
Okay. Vice Mayor Drosky.
I can also speak as well.
I'll tee it up. The city manager will stop me if I get too far into legal strategy tonight, because it is not my objective to discuss legal strategy and tell Waste Management what our hand is going forward. But it was very disappointing to attend all of the county meetings with respect to the expansion of Monarch Hill, not only vertically and horizontally, to have them vote for that expansion. The counties, and let me back up and let me paint this picture very clear. The county's code limits the height of landfills in Broward County to 125 feet. Waste Management received a variance to go to 225 feet, which is the cap that it has today. What was approved was to go to 325 feet as of right, I believe. Is that correct? Where's Eric? He's shaking his head. To go to 325 feet as of right. So now you're going from a variance to something as of right. 325 feet is taller than the Statue of Liberty in our own backyard. And the problem that I personally have had with this all along is that the dump, which was approved in the 1960s, there was nothing there. And the county, I'll say it 3 times, the county has allowed over the years residential development to go in around the dump. It has allowed Coconut Creek, Banyan Trails in particular, Independence Bay and Waterways in the west part of our city, and then also Century Village, Waterford Homes, and Waterford Courtyards, just to name a few neighborhoods that are immediately next to this dump. And the county has allowed and approved those residential projects to go in with the cap of 225 feet, the variance 225 feet. And that's what those residents bought, knowing that there was a cap of 225 feet. Now to come out and say, nope, sorry, we're going to change it to 325 feet, to me is just a stick in the eye of those residents going forward. And the problem that I have with this entire process is that what was approved is inconsistent with the county's comprehensive plan on its face. It does not take into account any of the environmental issues that may be there with the dump. Those of us that attended those those meetings at the county commission, there was a very dearth of discussion amongst the county commissioners with respect to the environmental issues that could be going there, because as the dump gets higher, it gets more compressed, it squeezes out the leachate, and I think it's universally known that the apron that is there holding all that together is antiquated and leaking. And that's going into our drinking water, and the county also amazingly refused to expand the buffer zones. If you're going to build this dump, then part of their code says you have to expand the buffers, the buffers for this property. And if we had a picture of the dump, which I don't think we do tonight, but you'll see those buffers are not extending at all. So you're keeping the same footprint, but you're increasing the height of this dump as it goes higher. And it also flies in the face of the recommendation of their own planning council. Commissioner Parnas was on it. They voted 18-0 against twice and against the expansion of the dump. So the final vote was 5-3. There was one commissioner who did not vote. I would pause to think that if that commissioner voted, it would have been 5-4. So we were really one vote shy of defeating this proposal, but it's all is not lost, because there is a state review portion of this as well that we can contest going forward. But the reason I put this on the agenda tonight is we cannot stand still and wait for Waste Management to once again roll over Deerfield Beach. We have to be proactive going forward. And what I would like for my colleagues to do tonight is to authorize the city attorney to start what's called Chapter 164 proceedings. So 164 proceedings basically is when one governmental entity sues another governmental entity. You have to have like a pre-suit meeting, and the city.
I'm gonna take it from there.
Okay, you're
At least
getting
this part.
I'm getting into your bailiwick now. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Vice Mayor. So, right, as the Vice Mayor was starting to explain, before one local government in the state of Florida can sue another local government, there's a procedure. It's Chapter 164 is just the chapter in Florida statutes that lays out the procedure. But essentially, it's a procedure where the initiating local government sends a notice to the other local government, and then the administrative representatives of those parties meet to try to work it out. If they can't, it requires a joint public meeting of the governing bodies between the parties. If that doesn't work out, then the parties can proceed to litigation or mediation if they so choose. So I wanted to point out in this case, Coconut Creek has already made their intention pretty clear that they do plan on filing a lawsuit. A few weeks ago, I think in early February, they actually did initiate the Chapter 164 process. And so I think what the Vice Mayor is asking for, I don't want to put words in his mouth, is for you to consider doing that as well. And if that's the direction you want to go, I did prepare a draft resolution that's before you. And essentially what it would do is authorize either participation in the current process between Coconut Creek and the county, or alternatively, if for whatever reason we can't join that process because of the timeframes or otherwise, then authorize otherwise proceeding with the Chapter 164 proceedings. I've spoken with the city attorney, my counterpart in Coconut Creek, and confirmed that Coconut Creek would love for you to participate if the city would like to. I have also spoken with her about the outside counsel that they're using as part of the 164 and potentially filing the lawsuit. His name is Mr. Ralph DeMeo Esquire of Gilday Law out of Tallahassee. He was actually at the hearing for those who attended. He was there, I think, speaking on their behalf. He would be willing to represent the city along with Coconut Creek at the hourly rate that he charges Coconut Creek. Here to answer any questions that you may have about the process or otherwise. And just the real quick summary, the notice goes out, the administrative reps meet, then you go into a meeting of the governing body. And if you can't work it out through that, then you can proceed with litigation.
So I see other lights. So it is my intention to ask you at the end of the day to authorize the city attorney to commence this Chapter 164 proceedings, because I do not think Deerfield Beach should lay on its back and take that stick in the eye that I was talking to you about before.
Thank you, Commissioner Parnas, and then Commissioner Hudak.
Well, I've been fighting the dump for a while, and what amazed me is when Commissioner Bogren, our commissioner, said, I have a recording that when we approved 8 years ago, they're going to 225, that would be the final height they would ask for. And it was on that basis that it got approved. That 225 would be the final height. And yet the county commission voted 5-3 to disregard the contract they had with Waste Management, limiting it to 225. And that's wrong. If I come to you and say, hey, lend me $10, I won't ask you again. And next week I say, you got another 20? I'm wrong. I gave you my word that 10 was it. Well, Waste Management gave the county their word that would be the limit. And they're violating it. And that's reason enough for us to join this suit, because it's wrong. They're endangering our water system. They're endangering our health and that of our children and grandchildren. This is where we choose to live, and we have to protect it. If we don't, who is? I'm disappointed that when we went, Eric, how many people were on the bus? 3, 4, 3, right? 3 people from the Deerfield City bus went to fight this at the county commission. 3. We have almost 90,000 residents, and they couldn't find a couple hours to show force that we're against it. Maybe people just don't understand or they don't care, but I care, and the city cares. I love this city, and I'm going to do everything in my power, whether I sit up here or not, to protect it and its citizens. We have to go forward with this suit and be part of it. Otherwise, they're going to start building as soon as possible, as soon as they get approval from the state.
Thank you, Commissioner Hudak.
Thank you. There are a lot of things that are wrong and that are not fair, that are not illegal. So what did the county do that was illegal that gives you hope that we can win a lawsuit by pursuing this? And that's for the city attorney, of course.
Okay. I figured you were directing that,
Sorry about that.
towards me. I don't want to get into all the legal strategies, et cetera, in the public. And, you know, if you do move forward, there is outside counsel that can give you more detail. Although I think he indicated probably some of the arguments at the outset of the meeting. But I also wanted to point out, at least based on my discussion with Vice Mayor Drosky and what's before you tonight, you're not necessarily authorizing filing the lawsuit tonight. If you move forward with this resolution, what you're doing is you're authorizing participating in that conflict resolution procedure, which is the first step before you can file a lawsuit. So I don't know if that helps guide you one way or another, but I would prefer not to go into all of the legal strategies and potential arguments that could be brought regarding that. But I'm happy to talk to you about it privately.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, look, I am not one that says, let's go suing other governmental agencies. There are people that wanted to do that with 10th Street. And I just think it's usually pretty futile. I think in this particular situation, considering a lot of the facts that went down, I think it's worthwhile for us to do that and join Coconut Creek in this. We've always kind of pressured Coconut Creek to do the right thing, and we stand together on this. And I think this is one that they shouldn't be going at this alone, because it impacts our residents as much as it impacts theirs. Give you an idea what it was. We talked about meeting fatigue, and while there wasn't a lot of people there, well, they purposely scheduled this within 30 days. That means anybody who previously spoke wasn't allowed to speak again. They don't want to hear our comments again. So already anybody's going to show up and not going to be allowed to comment. They didn't give the extended time, which would have made sense to wait for the solid waste group to come back with their master plan. They just said, okay, we'll kick it down the road, but we're only gonna do it less than 30 days so nobody else can speak on it again. So those of you who spoke earlier or last month, in January, weren't allowed to speak this time around. Questions that we had were completely ignored. They never answered our questions at all. As a matter of fact, Michael Udine, who voted for it, asked a question about what would it cost all the residents of Broward County if they didn't do this, if they didn't do it. He asked that question. It was one of his big questions that he had back in January. He never got an answer, and he never asked for the question to be answered again. Commissioner Fisher asked the question, said, why haven't we answered his question from before? And no one answered him. They just didn't care. They had made up their mind to move forward. It was 5-3. Udine, Nan Rich, their arguments made no sense. Nan Rich didn't say a word except yes. Made the motion, actually. I thought she was asleep. I couldn't believe it when she actually spoke up. I was glad to see she was okay. But I think we need to get behind this and move forward this. And, you know, it's not overcommitting us to a ton of money just yet. It's a matter of keeping our options open and see where this leads and see what our options are on it. And I think if we don't do that, we're doing a disservice to our residents. I'm going to open it to the public and for the public here to comment on this.
I'm sorry, Mayor, to stop you, but before you do, can I read the resolution title into the record? It sounds like there's at least it sounds like there may be a consensus to move in this direction. So I just want to read the resolution title in the record. Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, authorizing the conflict resolution procedures of Chapter 164 Florida statutes prior to initiating court action regarding Broward County's actions related to the expansion of the Monarch Hill landfill, retaining outside counsel to represent the city in the Chapter 164 process, providing for severability, implementation, and an effective date. Thank you.
Anyone from the public here to comment on this item?
Tom Plout, 3920 Northwest 4th Court. I went to a few of the meetings. There's few things that are on our plate in the future that are this bad, that affect the health and also our livelihood. And it's just not good. And I would urge you to vote for just this preliminary look at it to see what we can do. Like the mayor just said, we're not committing a lot of funds right now, but I think we need to move in the direction of trying to mitigate this. This is a really bad health problem. And personally being at the meeting and having one of the representatives be cornered to finally admit that the liner in the bottom is leaking. And, you know, they in previous times said that it was not, but they finally had to admit that. And so this is something we need to move forward with at this time, at least this preliminary step. That would be what I would do.
Thank you.
Terry Scott, 180 Southwest 3rd Avenue. If there ever been a time to fight for something, the time is now. I would ask that we would please join this lawsuit, that we would stand for what is right, according to all of us. It may not affect some right now, but later down the line, it shall affect. And I would say, let's fight now for the right. What a disgrace for the county to play games with our lives. They don't live here. They don't live close by. So they really don't care, Mr. Mayor. They don't care. That's why Nan Rich could pay us no attention, because they don't care. They don't live here. They don't live in Deerfield nor Coconut Creek, nor in the surrounding area of Pompano. I would say to us in Deerfield, let us join the fight. Let us be heard that we will not give up nor give in, but we will stand with the fight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Philip Bradley, 4330 Northwest 12th Avenue. If there was ever a hill to die on, literally, this is it. I would totally support anything we can do to stop this thing. There's so much wrong with it, especially the groundwater. The groundwater must be polluted. It must be. And I don't believe there have been any tests or drillings or samples taken of what's underneath that mountain. I think that would be a good path towards stopping this thing. As you said, the tarp is messed up and full of holes and leaking, and it's leaching into the aquifer. That's what could be worse. So please vote for moving forward with this initial step so that we can at least position ourselves to sue them when we're ready. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Hines, 559 Northwest 47th Terrace. Maybe y'all could get City of Pompano, Parkland, and Coral Springs to jump in on this thing too. Maybe even Margate. I mean, this is north end of the county. If this is affecting the water, that water runs everywhere under our ground. Now, recently I heard that in 2028, there was only going to be construction type debris. There was not going to be any household garbage being delivered to that hill anymore. I don't know what kind of construction debris it is or anything, but I do know one thing. The city of Deerfield owns 11 parcels in Blue Lake. They don't own from their southernmost parcel in Blue Lake is private owners that are on that strip that's on the north side of Wiles Road from Power Line to the Turnpike. Now, generally speaking, these lakes aren't that deep. They ran out of rock. They quit digging, maybe 10, 15 feet. Some of these lakes are shallow. I've been in them with spear guns years ago. Maybe that construction debris could be transported to private property and city property, create new land, which I think the city probably could use. And maybe the city could benefit financially and ethically and every other way if we got more land and maybe could get rid of that hill. Maybe over time they'd find some way to clean what's up in that hill and transport that hill the hell out of there and fill some of these holes in the ground that are all man-made. And just a thought.
Thank you. Ms. Freitag, Mr. Slattery, then Ms. Freitag.
John Slattery, 1455 Southeast 5th Place. Yeah, I absolutely think we should join this as well. I wasn't able to go to the meetings. I got to work during the day, but apparently I can hang out here all night. And I do absolutely support this.
Thank you. Ms. Freitag?
Katie Freitag, 418 Southeast 2nd Street. I did attend the meeting in January downtown and did get up and speak. And I am 100% jump in, get everybody we can together, band together, and get them to change their minds. We've got to fight this. It will not affect just our generation, but so many generations to come that we really need, as Mayor Gantz said, we owe it to the citizens of our city to fight this with everything we've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm going to close it to the public then. Oh, go ahead. I'll keep it open.
Billy Lane, Tilford,
A in Century Village. I was at 2 of those meetings, and I agreed that if there's things leaking into the ground, it's definitely polluting. And a lot of people just live on tap water. And I have 3 filters, and I change them every 4 months. And I could show you pictures of the water. It goes through there, and when I put them in, they're white. When I take them out, they're black and they're brown. And, a lot of people don't do that. And I don't know what the statistics are about cancer in Broward County, but drinking tap water is definitely not the smart thing to do. And over the weekend, I drove to Miami on the turnpike, and I knew Broward County is a big county. It's almost as big as Rhode Island. And people in the east, southeast, they don't care because they don't know what's going on. And if it was going on for them, it would be a big deal. But all these guys that represent, they didn't care. And I agree with the mayor. They had their minds made up, and you could have threatened them with a gun and they would have said yes. And I just think that the county is so big that lots of people don't understand what's going on down here because we're in the northeast part and they don't care. And anyway, I'm definitely on this. It's going to be expensive, but you got money, this is a good thing to spend it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll close it to the public then. The likelihood of getting Parkland and Coral Springs to get on board is very slim because their county commissioner voted for it. So he's pretty fearless, obviously, and that's because his people don't really care either. Just to clear up a couple things. This is, they obviously still have to do EPA does testing and everything like that on this. But stage 1 of that dump, when it was first built nearly 50 years ago, whatever it was, that's pre-EPA. If there is lining, it's certainly not up to par if it even exists. So certainly stage 1 of wherever that mound started doesn't have those protections, and there's no way for them to go back in and burrow underneath and try to put that in place. So while it's not incorrect to say that there's leakage and seepage into the, because I believe there is, the level and the extent, Waste Management will try to twist your argument and say it's much ado about nothing, but you're not wrong on it. We've heard the way they try to twist a lot of these arguments that happened. And I chastised the county because in the January meeting, when the county staff made their presentation, they relied so much on their sole source of information being Waste Management that when they made their presentation, their slides, they left the Waste Management logo on their own presentations. That's how lazy they were, that they couldn't even think to pull off the logo of Waste Management off the facts that they were feeding the county commissioners. So it sounds like we have support for this. I am looking for a motion then to get this moving forward.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Parnas, seconded by Commissioner Preston. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Hudak,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas.
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Drosky,
Yes.
Mayor Gantz.
Yes, and thank you, Vice Mayor, for bringing this forward.
You are now at comments by mayor and city commission.
Okay, we'll start with District 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy to report, I guess our lifeguard stations are finally finished and they're actually being occupied by our world-class national champion lifeguards. So I'm very happy to hear that. The undergrounding project on the S curve, from what I understand, it has about 2 weeks worth of work left. But unfortunately, our permits with the county have not been approved yet because in order to finish the project, we actually have to close the road, and they will not allow any road closures during spring break. So we have to wait until after spring break ends, which will be mid-April, before we can continue with our construction. So unfortunately, we've got to wait a little bit longer for that. I'm sure everybody up here everybody who is still here with us knows what's happening next Tuesday, which will be voting for our mayor as well as commissioners 3 and 4. And I hope that you tell all of your friends to please go out and vote. Please educate yourselves before you vote, not just by going to Facebook, but by actually talking to the various candidates, so that you can make an educated decision. As we talked a little bit earlier about, myself and some of my peers up here will be headed to Washington, D.C. Next week, and then the following week to Tallahassee. That's a big part of our job. It's not just cutting ribbons or sitting up here, but it's also representing you in Washington as well as Tallahassee, so that we can get funds for our city for all of these projects that we have going on. So looking forward to that trip as well. And again, please get out and vote next Tuesday. That's all I have.
Thank you. District 2.
Thank you, Mayor. On February 22nd, we had the Black Heritage. I'd like to thank the African American Heritage Board. I'd like to thank staff for a job well done. That was a really great event. It was really well attended. And it was just a good time. It seems to get better each and every year. On the 27th of this month, I'm going to have at the Tigner Center a district meeting, and I'm gonna ask the city manager to get that information out, please, so that everyone is aware. It's about 3 weeks away. So on the 27th at the Tigner Center. That's it from me, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. District 3, for the final time.
For the final time. First, I want to thank the citizens of Deerfield Beach for putting up with me. I have some strong ideas about the city that I love, and I'm not ashamed to express them. And when I go into a fight, I go in 100%. 100%. Such as 10th Street, such as the dump, such as water in Deerfield Beach. I think these are important issues. But I want to thank the citizens because it's been my honor of my life to serve for 8 years. And I'm not done. I'm waiting for a position to open up again on the Planning Council, in which I'll represent Deerfield Beach. I spent 10 years fighting for Deerfield Beach on that council. Loved every minute of it because I love this town. So again, I want to thank you for allowing me to serve you for 8 years. And as long as I can breathe and walk and function, I'll be in there fighting for its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. District 4.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no farewell speech because I have zero intention of going anywhere. I have every intention of winning the election on March 11. Please, as the commissioner from District 1 said, come out and vote. If you're voting for any of my opponents, the election is actually March 12th. So, but the one thing I did want to bring up tonight is there was a Central City Corridor meeting last night, and I'm talking to my colleagues from District 1 and 2 because you were there, and this is the only time that we get to discuss it is in the sunshine. And so I just wanted to, provide my feedback, and if the mayor will allow it for you to join in, even though you have given your comments. And I discussed this with the city manager and gave him, my comments today, but I think we missed the mark last night. That was my takeaway, is because when you listen and talk to the residents, we branded the event as the Central City Corridor, but when you talk to the residents, their definition of the Central City Corridor is not Dixie Highway. It's Martin Luther King area and that area. And that the Dixie Highway Corridor is something very different. So a lot of people came in with a mindset that didn't fit the topic of the meeting last night. So what we should have been doing, and what I've been saying for a long time, is we need to build bridges to the District 2 community, not only with the residents, but the businesses and the city. And when I say city, I mean not just the elected officials, but our staff as well on a daily basis, and the city manager. And there was an opportunity last night to start building that bridge to having all those different interests come together so that we can get a plan for Dixie Highway. Because obviously there's a reason why we don't, why it's been the way it has over all these years. And last night was the first opportunity to build that. And I think we missed that opportunity. I think we focused too much on those focus groups, and then the focus groups are meeting, the day before the election in the morning and evening, and then they're meeting the day after the election. So the timing and the focus was just off to me. It wasn't bad. I'm not saying it was a horrible, it was a waste of time, because there was the outreach and the opportunity for the residents to give their opinions. There were 5 different stations that were being recorded, and the opportunity to make comments on the map. So free information is never bad when talking to the community. I just think that the overall approach, we missed the mark and missed the opportunity to really start building that bridge with District 2, and the residents and the businesses in particular, to show them that they can trust the city going forward. And I think there was some things where we left and didn't have that impression. So I'd be curious, since we're in a public environment, if my colleagues are willing to speak or not. I know I'm putting you on the spot. It's not on the agenda, but this is the only opportunity that we have to talk about it. And that was my takeaway from last night. Was it last night? Everything blends together these days.
Yes. Commissioner Preston.
There were some things about the meeting that was very beneficial, and obviously in building trust. There are some other considerations that need to take place. But I think that you got to remember and keep it in perspective that this was just the fact gathering information. This is the first meeting. There's going to be multiple focus groups that is going to be able to, cast their opinion and that sort of thing. So wherein on one hand, there could have been, the agenda could have been a little bit different. The fact of the matter is that this is just the initial stages, just the initial meeting coming out. And I think that they will get better. Hopefully that they will get better. And as we go along, that will end up creating a vision. That's what we're after. But there's a lot of considerations with that too, because the city doesn't really own the properties. And so that's a challenge right there. You're looking at a target area. To me, you look at that target area. What is that target area? What is being proposed in that area? And the first thing that you have to secure is that free property? Is that property without any liens? Is it, and that could be multiple owners. How do you deal with that? So there's a lot of different layers that I think that needs to be attacked. And if we just continue to have these meetings, I think we'll find the answers that we're looking for.
Thank you. Commissioner Hudak.
My take of the event, first of all, there were over 50 people there, which is absolutely tremendous. So that shows that the outreach was a hit. When you get 50 people there, I think that was tremendous. My take was closer to Commissioner Preston's view. Again, this was the first meeting. This was the first step. There are going to be focus groups. There are going to be meetings with the property owners. You know, ever since the ULI event happened, you know, one of the things that I noticed and one of the challenges with developing that area is that community does not trust the city. And that's understandable. And the only way for us to build that bridge back is to get them involved. And that's what last night was about, is getting them involved in the ground floor, getting them involved in the beginning. There's no plans. There's no designs right now. It's just, what do you want to see? What would you like in your community? And for a first meeting, I think it was a great first step. I really do. Were there individuals there that were complaining, oh, meetings are during the day coming up, or you should have everybody at every single meeting? Yes. But that stems from the lack of trust of the city from the community. I don't think that is a reflection of the actual meeting that took place. I thought city staff did a great job with the outreach. I thought city staff did a great job with communicating the intent of the meetings. And I'm really happy that that there are numerous meetings that are coming forth. Just like we did this evening with the Northwest, master plan. These are just concepts. These are ideas that we're starting. And so the fact that we are getting the community involved in the beginning, as opposed to having a plan and saying, okay, community, this is the plan, which is where the mistrust comes from. So I was actually very pleased with the meeting myself.
Thank you.
That's all I had. Thank you, Mayor.
That's it.
Appreciate the feedback.
No problem. Okay. Last time after 16 years of being able to comment at the end here, guys. First off, happy birthday, Rodney. Hope we really screwed it up for you by keeping you here this late. But happy birthday to our city manager. So this is my last shot to suggest a couple things while I'm still sitting up here. And I hope you guys look to make consideration on this the next meeting or beyond in the very near future. So we have residential parking spots right now. They're designated spots. And, our designated spots where it's allowed is South Beach, Main Beach, Fire Station in Hillsborough, which is adjacent to the fire station lot. The way we do it now, if you buy the beach parking pass and the way we do it with Park Mobile, I believe we should let the residents who have those beach parking passes park anywhere that's a city lot over by the beach. Not be limited to just those sections. If they paid for the permit, they live here, let them park where they want to park at. The only exception is, I would say, is the pier parking lot, because I think we need to have consideration for fishermen and things like that. But when it comes, the areas that aren't included in that are Kirk Cottrell Pavilion, places like that, pretty much anywhere else that's in that area. If we eliminated those, I think that would be easier. And I've talked to the city manager about it. I think it actually it makes a lot more sense, doesn't it?
I would agree. The current way, which is archaic and goes back to a day when we were using stickers, and then we had designated residential spots. The problem with that is it restricts our residents and confines them to park in certain areas that might not be where they want to patronize. If they want to patronize someplace north or on the north end of the beach, and they have to park all the way down at Main Beach parking lot, it's a hike for them to be able to do that. It might be raining, who knows what. But if we're going to give the deference to anybody, I would say to our residents who pay for the annual permit.
Okay. Commissioner Hudak and then Commissioner Preston.
I think it's been a miss all along. When we went away from the stickers, we obviously didn't update the program or the policies. I don't even think residents are aware that they're limited to where they can park. I mean, in my concept, if I buy a sticker, I should be able to park in any city parking space. So I think this is actually a no-brainer, and I think this is kind of a miss when we went away from the stickers, that we didn't update the policy.
Okay, Commissioner Preston.
I agree with you, Mayor. This is something that's needed. The exemption would be for the pier. I don't know, you were here, Mayor, when we decided to redo that parking lot. The fishermen lost, I want to say 15 spaces or something like that. It was unbelievable. So yes, I agree with this, but the exemption, and I agree with what you're saying, that should be the pier, so the fishermen can have a place to park.
Sure. I'll leave it to you guys to sort out how it'll be worded on next time it comes up, but I hope you guys, take this up in the future here. One of the things also to kind of right a wrong that has fallen off over time, and one of the benefits of being up here a long time, you have a long memory of stuff. And it was mentioned somewhere that I overheard it, and it was a really good point. But we have that summer program that Gwendolyn Clark-Reed started as a commissioner for the city. And it's still in existence today. It's a youth summer job program, I believe it is. It used to be called the Gwen Clark-Reed program. And I think that was something that was agreed upon back then to have it. And that's what we used to reference it as when I first got in office. Somewhere along the line, her name has fallen off that. And I don't think that's right. So I think we should return that and have that happen. That has fallen off a bit. And I would like us to, it's really hard when you don't have the history of what goes on and a lot of things aren't submitted in place, but that's one that should be reinstated and put back and not just be forgotten. So if we could please reinstate that, that would be great. Commissioner Hudak brought up about going to DC and to Tallahassee. Those are really worthwhile trips. We would not have Sullivan Park today had it not been for a trip to Tallahassee. I happened to get on a plane with someone from the Urban Land Institute, ULI. We never had him here in our city, never did anything. You have a couple hours on a plane talking to somebody about what they do and what our needs are. And we were looking to develop Sullivan Park. We just purchased the property. So I asked if we could bring him in, and we brought him in. And that their visioning led us to Sullivan Park. And we see all the other work they do, including this area here that we've brought them in for discussion. So things like the abandoned property ordinance, which has brought us over $1 million in revenue, been able to recoup over the last probably 10 years since it was put in place, or 14 years, I should say. That all came from learning stuff at the League of Cities events and finding out what other cities are doing to solve some of their problems. So it's not just an opportunity to get in front of our elected officials at a higher level, but it's our opportunity to learn from colleagues to find out what we can bring to our city. And that's a good thing. So I want us to continue to do that. I will be speaking on tomorrow night's Adams Brothers podcast. For those of you who want to tune in, if you're having trouble sleeping, you can come listen to me speak for a little while longer. There's been discussion about what we did with our city manager's pay and compensation, but I want you guys to understand something and put it in context. And there seems to be a lot of missing context to what happens. There's a lot of people that are angry about stuff that they don't understand how cities work. They think our city operates any different than any other city. Our taxes are too high. Move to the next city and tell me what they're going to be for you there. When you inherit a house or buy a new home and your taxes are recalculated, guess what? We have one of the better tax rates compared to our neighbors. That's what happens. That's the way taxes work. I'm sorry you don't understand it, but you should. Don't keep it out of context. City of Fort Lauderdale just approved the contract for their city manager. Fort Lauderdale, kind of a big city, don't you think? The biggest in Broward County. They hired someone who's never been a city manager before. 2 years as an assistant city manager in Miami Beach. $350,000 a year, 4-year guaranteed contract. $700 a month car allowance, $200 monthly phone reimbursement, lump sum moving allowance of $10,000, 9 months before they have to actually move into the city because it is required in their charter to do that. $20,000 built-in yearly increases to their deferred comp payments for the employee contributions of their retirement. A lump sum severance package of 20 weeks of pay if she's fired for any other misconduct. A lump sum longevity bonus of 3% of base salary starting in 2028 or $10,500 to promote management stability. This is what is going on in the public sector. I think that's an outrageous contract. I think it's insanity, in my opinion. Keep in context where we are compared to these other cities when we start getting angry about things. The anger in this city is so misplaced because it's an arrogance of, it's one thing to be uninformed. It's the arrogance of people that are uninformed that stuns me, that they can be so proud of their ignorance on a subject matter and speak so confidently on something that they've heard 2 lines of dialogue on and don't realize that there's a lot of gray area in between these things. And there's not just a 1-2 word simple answer to some of these complex problems. I am stunned by it. I hope that changes in the future. But I don't see that changing. Keep yourself informed, show up to these meetings, whether you like them or not, and listen in and educate yourself, and then form your opinion. I sat here for 2 years. I didn't speak for the first year coming to the meetings. 18 years ago, I just sat there and listened because I watched some idiot get up and do that. Didn't know what the hell they were talking about and got embarrassed. I said, I will never do that. I'll at least try to understand what I'm talking about before I stand up. I hope that's what people do in the future. Yes, and please get out and vote on Tuesday. Get out and vote.
Yep.
This isn't people saying, oh, let's change it back to November. It never was in November. It's always been in the charter. March elections, no surprise to anybody. Here's one final thing I will say. Whatever is happening in the world today, it has allowed people to be bold online and run their mouths. I've always said that the internet's soapbox for cowards. Someone else brought up about what garbage it can be. It has good, but it has a lot of bad. What I've seen, which people seem to be comfortable with, is saying things are just nothing. I don't know what a better word to describe it except pure racism. When people say, I will not attend the Black Heritage Dinner until there's a White Heritage Dinner, I'm stunned by that kind of statement. And it's other statements as well. And it's not like the old days, like I said, at the Black Heritage Dinner, where they get to hide behind white hoods. Their faces and names are online for everyone to see. And I know a lot of people in the community are really upset about that. And we see it more and more. We see this nastiness and this pure hatred and racism on our city posts all the time on social media. And I don't think we can control it, but you can. Don't target them. Don't get angry with them. Just double down on spreading goodwill and love within our city when you see stuff like that. But don't forget who they are. Their names are public. Look at it. Know their names. Know the companies they work for. Know the businesses they own, and make your decision on whether you choose to support it or not. And if they work for someone, make sure that their owners know that I'm not going to do business with some place that has people employed by them that act that way. And also look at who they support and who allows them to continually comment online about things and aren't publicly admonished. If you can cut a post by someone that you disagree with or is critical of you, but you allow a blatant racist to continue to post freely just because they support you, I suggest that says a lot about your character. Don't forget them. See whose sign they got in their front yard. See who has not publicly admonished them, and then ask that person why. There's no room for that in this city. Don't get angry. Just double down on spreading goodwill and love. This is a fantastic city. It has been my pure honor to sit up here and give these little segments at the end for 16 years. So thank you so much for the time and listening to me. Thank you.
To adjourn.
So for the final time, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
You have it.
Motion for Commissioner Parnas, second by Commissioner Preston. All in favor,
Aye.
say aye.